almost a week.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, we can celebrate you're doing better again, so that's great.
Yeah.
Right?
Are we on?
Is this the question that we usually ask? Are we on? Are we live? Are we? Hey, Justin, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another DJs and Beers episodes. This is actually episode number 30, Matt.
Yeah,
30
weeks.
And I was really looking forward to today's show because I was really waiting to open my first beer of the day.
Wow. What are you drinking, Chris?
It's a Fake Flowers New England IPA.
Nice.
And appropriate to the circumstances and the time we're in, November. Well, it's not really November yet. It has 8.3 volume percent alcohol.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm back on the Paulana.
Oh, right. Weissbier.
Weissbier, which is very nice. And it's my first beer since last Friday. So
yeah. You were sick. You had a cold or something, or a virus.
I've been in bed with the flu, which I think is for my kids. And I actually want to use this opportunity to apologize to anyone that's bought a T-shirt, the one that I'm wearing. They're all actually here, and I've still got to mail them out. But I actually didn't leave the house because I was worried that I might have COVID or something like that. So apologies, and they will be going out in the mail tomorrow.
All right. I'll need to send you my address too still. I realized.
You do, Chris. You do.
I know. First, let's have a beer. Cheers, guys. Cheers, everyone out there. Thanks for tuning in again. In case you're wondering that it's only the two of us, what happened on the way? We've lost Ali because he went over to Dubai for this week. So he's excused. He's over there doing, I don't know what, business. David actually has his very first time off the show. He's been on every single show.
Yeah.
Right? So he's definitely eligible to skip one, right?
Definitely.
And we're still actually hoping for Mo to jump on because I think he has to watch his son a little, and he might join us in a little later.
Yeah, but I mean we're making up for it, aren't we, this week with two special guests. So
yeah,
they'll be joining us in a bit.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to continue the talk with Dean, especially with the in regards of management and all that stuff. It was I thought it was so extremely insightful, the last show with Dean. For those of you who missed that, and for those of you who maybe just starting out, becoming like a young artist in this scene, I'd very much recommend you to watch the last show with Dean. If I had prepared a little better, I would even know the episode number. But I actually, on my YouTube channel, I actually organized all the DJs and Beers shows, so you can find them from episode 1 till episode last week, I guess. I don't think I put the right number in last week. But thanks to Justin from Juice Productions, our producer in the background. Justin, do you still hear us?
Gone.
Maybe he does, but he's gone. Everybody's left us. Left us. Yeah.
So, Chris, how's your week been? You've been doing this. You've been doing another masterclass kind of. What have you been doing?
I honestly wouldn't want to call it masterclass. Beatport has this Twitch channel now, as some of you know. It was part of this DJs and Beers story at some point. Yeah. And they've asked me to host two, what are they actually called? Studio sessions. They're studio sessions. So since this is currently my studio, apparently, like it is my studio. It's let's say more an improvised space, but that functions as a studio. I agreed, and I set my cameras up, and last week was the first one. on the 20th, and now I did another one on Tuesday, like 2 days ago, and I kind of continue what I've done, what I've started basically the week before, and it was a lot of fun. I ended up doing it for 4 hours instead of 3 the last show. And
so you're not fitting into like a format. You can freestyle your way as long as you like.
See, there was literally no limits given by Beatport or no, let's say, a format given. So it was totally up to me to do whatever. And it was kind of my very first time to do anything like this. And I think I've mentioned that last week. It's a very, very different thing to either having this DJs and Beers show where we're like sometimes 5 people talking to each other. And we will be 4 people in a little bit. And you talk, but you bounce off each other. You ask yourself, you ask the others questions. There's stuff happening. And the DJ streams that I'm doing, where you don't talk at all, you just play music. You control your fog machine and what the beamer plays, and you keep checking if the stream is still streaming towards the internet out there. Since you're basically alone. I mean, most of us stream alone, right? There's only a few who have a team around them.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a whole different animal, really. It's you sit here, you want to try to get as much information over. So I tended to talk a lot.
Okay.
And you guys tell me if I talked too much. And you obviously next to it, you want to create something and take the people on that.
Are you sharing
journey?
Are you sharing your screens and stuff like that with the audience as well? Okay, that's
I switch back and forth. As you can see, there's still a little camera back there. There's one there, and I have one on top, which went had a bird's view basically. And I tried to give the people basically such an inside view as if they were sitting behind me looking over the shoulder and constantly trying to explain things. But it's kind of, I've never done this before, so it's kind of a little chaotic, and I'm starting to talk about this, but then I think about that and I start to talk about this, and then I lost my plot, what was going on over there. And it feels a little bit like all over the place. But I thank you everyone out there who gave me some nice comments on the whole thing, because that was a little bit that gave me a little bit more of a better feeling about it. For those who missed it, you can watch it on my YouTube channel. I uploaded both shows on my YouTube channel now. I just published, just before we went online here, I published the second part. So for those guys who want to skip through this and check out what's going on. And actually, when the show was over on Tuesday, I had to stop because Beatport had another show on after me. I actually continued and I kind of finished the track even. So there's a 303, 101, 909, a little bit of Electron, MC 707, and there's one sound from the Moog on there too.
Because this is what I was discussing with Justin about doing these creative sessions, and what you said about the person looking over your shoulder. But what I thought is when I do Mind Quiz is maybe you'll be in the room at the same time, asking me questions. So you'll be like, can you do this? Can you add? Like almost having a producer or sitting next to you or someone asking you stuff. Because I think sometimes when you're on your own, sometimes it's nice to be encouraged, or someone say, why don't you try this? Or how do you do that?
Yeah. Oh, that would be really helpful. That was the point, you're completely alone, and you have to like speak about something. Obviously we're doing this since quite a while, so we should be knowing what we're doing, but talking about it at the same time, I always found, I'm not sure if you see it the same way, I always found producing music for me is the most intimate process.
Yeah.
In that whole business that we're doing, it's like DJing. Obviously, you're with people, but producing, I felt always like if you're alone, it's just like I sometimes sit there and for an hour you just tweak something, and you're just like you're so with yourself in that moment.
Yeah.
So it's really different to let someone or let audience in and watch you doing this, because you want to at the same time explain what you're doing. So you're starting to explain what you're doing while you're doing it. And that's what I was going for in a way. I've tried to just share the ideas of what you're doing, but obviously you're not diving as deep into it as if you were alone, intimate on your own doing it, because you want to move on. I think everybody would be bored if you're looking for or putting together a new patch or sound for like an hour, and everybody's like, yeah, what's going on? So I'm still trying to find like the right dose of doing stuff together with explaining stuff. And even though
you don't come across as a producer that would spend maybe 3 months on like a snare drum, or like, and some people do, I think I think you like to get things done. Am I right? Or like you...
I do like to get things done, but because it's just funny you're talking about a snare drum. I mean, with a kick drum, sometimes I could go mental with a kick drum, right? And I can go forever just tweaking a kick drum and forming it. But it's funny that you mentioned this, because I am still mixing my album. It's still not over. And there was this one track which has this one snare, and I'm literally fighting with this snare over maybe half a year now. I mean, not every day.
Take it out.
Then something essentially is missing.
Right.
Some very essential stuff is missing.
Yeah, I mean, that's horrible when you have those niggly things that just one thing in one, and maybe only you hear it as the writer that's jumping out and saying no.
Yeah,
this doesn't sound right.
But I mean, that's why it's good to have. If you're producing something, to have a second pair of ears that you can trust, but who's not involved in the production, who's kind of like, who can judge this objectively, to say like, what, that sounds crappy. Because once you're in your own production, it's really hard to the longer you're in it, the harder it gets to basically judge it, what you're doing still. Is that still the right way to go? Is this not still the right way to go? That's why it's so important also in the mixing process to have either even someone else mixing it, or you have someone like a second pair of ears that watches over you. But I when you're talking about like doing a production stream with the two of us, I think that would be a really cool idea, because I would have a million questions to ask you. And
we just thought that the pairing thing, just because, I mean, I think if I was sat in the studio, maybe I wouldn't talk for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, because I'd be, like you just said, you get so lost in, I'm not saying you get lost in maybe because you don't know what you're doing, you just get lost in a groove and lost in you might want to listen to something over and over again for 10, 15 minutes, even half an hour and an hour. But if you've got people watching you, then they're going to be like, well, what's next? You
Yeah.
You just want to sit back and go, this sounds great. I love this. I can live with this forever. But
maybe but sometimes it's also like you're leaning back and you're just like enjoying yourself listening to that. But maybe for too long, and if somebody's watching you, it forces you to just like, okay, stop. Let's get back to work. I'm having I'm having too much of just a spare fun time here right now. Just, you're indulging in like, I've just created this. Listen to this. Oh yeah, listen to this. Let's keep listening to this.
But I thought it could be quite big. It could be a good idea for me and you to do it, just so that we can, spar off one another, and then you can ask me stuff. So maybe maybe that'll happen. We're working on it.
We're working on it. We're definitely working on that. You know what? Shall we get our guests in?
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, let's get our guests in, and everyone out there who's watching us on the YouTube or Facebook channels, obviously, probably best on my YouTube and my Facebook, or Matt's YouTube or Matt's Facebook. Are we on your YouTube? Do you have a YouTube channel, Matt?
It's not on my records one. No, it's just on Facebook.
Oh, okay, so it's either Matt's Facebook, my Facebook, or my YouTube. If you want to ask some questions, we're ready to answer them for you, because we're not that many people here tonight. We can maybe...
I think this is the first time it's been down to 2, hasn't it? 2 of us?
It is definitely the first time. Hold on.
Would it get down to 1? That's the question.
Yeah, just me or you sitting there like...
That'd be the Christmas edition.
It's DJ and beer.
Yeah.
We have a ghost producer invited, right? Because it's Halloween.
Dean. There he is.
Hey, you too.
Right, get the bar.
All right. The person who just left the room is Mr. Spencer Parker. Matt, you can tell a little bit about him. And the person who's still in the room is Dean Mushin, who I welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for coming back.
Welcome back, Dean.
Cheers.
Sorry for inviting Spencer.
Oh, he's got an ice cold glass.
Up there for thinking, down there for dancing.
Whoa, this is like next level, DJs and Beers.
Wow.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, so should we have a cheers? Come on, quick.
Of course, I just still need to put in the last bit of
Cheers, guys.
the New England IPA.
Oh, I think I've had that actually.
Wow.
That is a nice IPA.
You on the Dave Taylor?
Yes, very good. Very good. I was thinking, what are you on about then? But no, yeah, well done. Yeah, Fallen Brewing Switch, Hazy Pale. I'm like easing in with like a relatively low volume one because I haven't been getting a lot of sleep this week. So I figured if I start with something strong and an hour in, I start falling off my chair, it's not going to be a good look.
Okay, that's great. And if we have any important stuff to discuss, maybe we can do it in the beginning of the show because mine has high volume and I'm not sure how long I'm going to take that.
We're going to lose you after about 15 minutes.
I think faster.
How you been, Dean? How's London? How's UK?
Well, you know, I guess it's same answer as everyone else really. The UK at the minute's in kind of various stages of local lockdown, and lots of kind of people arguing about whether that lockdown is a good thing or a bad thing, or you know, the usual, pretty much the same as I'm guessing is going on in Berlin, but for you in Frankfurt, Chris. But personally, I'm doing okay. Since last time we spoke, I reopened our office for a kind of half of our staff, which is making life a little bit more bearable because it's nice to be around my colleagues, which is really nice.
Yeah, I probably missed them.
Yeah, we really did. We're quite a tight team, and also it's been very strange for me because obviously I've kind of had to switch my focus from purely being an artist manager, which I've been for 6 years, to back to the PR company a little bit. So kind of working with the rest of the team has been important, and doing it face to face has been it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but it's been quite life affirming. I think after working from home and getting used to that side of the business again, I found quite difficult, but being in the team has been really positive. I'm not sure whether they would agree, but it's certainly been nice for me.
Nice.
I've spoken to several of them and they don't agree.
Yeah.
So, Dean, you brought one of your clients with you, right, tonight?
Yes. Spencer, because there's an impending lockdown in Berlin, Spencer's only plans tonight were wandering the streets, making a nuisance of himself. So Matt suggested that
really?
Yeah, he invited Spencer on, and despite me saying no, that's an awful idea. Yeah, here we have. So it's not actually, no, I'm joking. It's lovely to have Spencer on it. Yeah,
welcome to the show, Spencer. Finally.
I've been practicing for this my whole life.
Here's to that. Where you're also in Berlin. Behind you is a really nice, what is it, a Uray or Rain Rotary mixer?
It's an Alpha recording system mixer, which is completely ludicrous to have in your home. But I bought another Rotary mixer, which I wasn't very happy with, which was a complete disaster. And I sold that, and I wanted to get a new Rotary mixer, not like a Bozak or not a Uri, like a brand new Rotary mixer, because I like these sort of mixers. And the only one that I really liked was the Alpha recording system. And they released that one, and they made 4 of them, and I managed to get one of them.
What, they made 4 units in total?
They made 4, yeah. David Morales had one, Harvey had one, I had one.
That's probably why I've never heard of the brand, right? Because 4 units.
It's a really small company. I've been to their workshop office in Tokyo. I went there with Mr. Ties. We went to see it, and I always remember, because when we went there, I remember Nina. She wanted the guy to make a mixer with faders, which was the complete opposite to what he's used to, So, but yeah, it's a great company. They make really cool. And Spencer's got the crossover above the mixer, which they're lovely. It's a nice bit of kit.
It's a bit excessive for a house, but at the time I wanted to buy a brand new Rotary mixer, and since they've released that one, they've also released some different versions and some smaller ones. So if I'd waited a little bit, I could have got one of the smaller ones. But I've paid it off, and I'm happy I've got it now.
I can give everyone an insight into how particular Spencer is here.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not gonna say which brand he did, but he ordered a handmade Rotary from a French company. Most people who know Rotaries will probably know who it is. And it arrived, and one of the Rotary encoders was slightly slacker than the others. So this was not tolerable for Spencer. So he sent it back, and then it came back, and one was tighter than the others. So for Spencer, the buying experience had been so ruined that he sold me that mixer, which is perfectly fine and adequate, and then bought a mixer which definitely belongs in a sort of a minimum 1,500 capacity nightclub. Is flat. So yeah, that's a shockingly accurate insight into Spencer's mindset there.
I wanted a Rotary mixer. I didn't want to get like a Yuri or a Bozak, because I'm not particularly good technically. I didn't want to like ship some fucking Bozak from New York, and then I plug it in, and there's like some fucking thing I don't know how to fix, or God knows. Yeah. I was like, I want a brand new mixer. And there's a few people now doing Rotary mixers, but a lot of them are like, not to say anything bad about them, but they're kind of like people working out of their garages, or they're very small boutique sort of things, which is fine. But I chose to go with some absolutely lunatic Japanese people who do shit for clubs. And I was like, you're going to get my money, and they did get my money, quite a lot of it.
Matt, you have the Isono, don't you?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I've ordered. I asked Justin to make me one, and I would still love to have the Isono. It's a beautiful looking machine. I mean, I'm not sure if Chris has seen this mixer that Justin David makes, and he does a lot of. You might know him, Chris, because the first thing he made were these feet for the Technics 1200s, and so they cushion the whole platform, and so he sells those. But now the mixers he makes are amazing. They're really good.
I think they look. I don't think they don't make any sense to my mind. The layout of them looks too confusing to me.
Yeah, but I think they're just very well made, and the sound quality is great.
Yeah, I'm sure that's fucking amazing. Yeah.
So Spencer, have you always been a Rotary mixer type of person?
Not really. I kind of learned on them in a way. I played in quite a few clubs in the 90s.
If I can stop you right there, because that would be my next question. You could just chime in right away, because I think what most people are always curious about is like how we started, how we got into the business. And maybe you can give us an overview of how you ended up with Dean then too.
Yeah. I mean, I started off just DJing,
where?
Really simple. I'm from South London, Southeast London, a place called Croydon, which is kind of famous for being the home of dubstep.
All right.
Which is true, I guess. But I came from there probably like a lot of people, just started off. I actually started off buying records to remind me of nights out. I had no real interest in being a DJ. I just had no interest in it at all. I'd go out clubbing, raving, and I was a big fan of that. And almost as like a memento or a souvenir of the night, if I heard one record that I really loved, I wanted to hear that when I was at home. So apart from pirate radio, you know, if you wanted to hear that record again, you had to buy that fucking record. No streaming. You know, the stuff that I would hear in clubs maybe it would be on Radio 1, maybe it wouldn't. But if you're dancing for 8 hours, you know, you might hear a record that will never touch Radio 1. So I buy records to remind me of the night out. I was never like, I want to be the DJ. I must be the DJ. I amassed a few records. I was going out a lot.
It would be my next question. After 1 year, you had like 1,000 records at home.
No. Not, even now, I haven't got that many records. I'm super good at getting rid of records when I need to get rid of them.
Oh, that's good.
But yeah, just as mementos. And then I got enough that someone asked me to play their birthday party, and I played their birthday party. And then I liked it so much that I really like got into it more and more and more. And then, you know, started playing in London, which was like a really big deal. If you're from like more of the suburbs, somewhere like London, which is like, you know, on the map of dance music around the world, same as Berlin then and now. You know, it's the same if you're living in the suburbs of Paris and you get asked to play, you know, Respect is Burning, or, you know, one of the legendary clubs, or, you know, if you're living in somewhere else in, you know, the suburbs of Berlin, you get asked to do Oscar back in the day, or Ewerk, or any of those sort of places. You know, I used to send out tapes. I used to do tapes at home, and I used to do 60-minute tapes because they were 30 minutes each side, not 90-minute tapes. Because if you do 45 minutes, there's more chance to fuck up. But if you do 30 minutes, there's less chance. So 60-minute tapes, and I used to spray paint the tape gold, and I used to spray paint the Jiffy envelope gold, and then I used to look in the back of DJ Mag and find out the addresses on the addresses of the clubs. And then I'm quite like a shy and reserved person, despite what you may think. But I find it like a bit stressful. Like, I'm not really that good at like speaking to people, you know. But for some reason, I just wanted to DJ so badly and wanted to do it in these clubs that I'd spray paint these fucking things gold, send them to clubs, and then a week later, call them up on my Nokia 5610 or whatever I had, and go, did you get my tape? Which blows my mind now. I won't even answer the phone if you call me now. But, you know, but back then I was like, right, I'll call them up and I go, did you get my tape? And they're like, listen, we get loads of tapes. We get a lot of tapes. And I was like, yeah, get one spray painted gold. And they're like, oh yeah, we got the gold one. I was like, oh, check it out. I'll ring you back next week. So it kind of worked to a certain extent. Or they'd hear it and go, yeah, we heard it. It's fucking diabolical. You'll never work it. But at least they listened to it. So then I started doing that and started playing at clubs in London. And then I worked in a record shop in Soho. And we'd give out...
Which one?
It's a record shop called Uptown Records.
Okay.
Which was on the same road as Black Market Records. And there was a lot of record shops in Soho at this time. So you could kind of walk around Soho and hit like 7 or 8 record shops.
Which year are we talking?
I'm terrible with years, but it was, I guess, 90s, 90, 75, 85, yeah. 95. I guess like 97, 98, something like this. I don't know. But
we
yeah,
might have run into each other because I was a lot in London around this time. Yeah, and there was Yucatec Records in Soho. I don't know if you remember that one.
Tunes,
with Niels and Hans. Yeah.
Release the Groove.
Yeah.
Yeah, Unity. I used to go to Unity when I first started.
Right.
You saw a handsome young man with curly hair down to about there, and two little ears sticking out. It might have been me. So I started doing that, And then I was very driven in the sense that if I got an opportunity, I'd work really hard to make it count. So if I did get a gig, I would normally get the return. So if I played in London, they'd ask me back again. Then I'd start playing in different places. If someone came in the record shop from Italy and I gave them a tape, sometimes they'd book me. But if they did, they'd book me again and again and again. So if I played in London, they'd ask me back again like that.
Who's that?
Sorry, that was me.
That's all right.
I was finally able to open my Facebook page for some reason, so I can read if there's any questions.
I understand. It was such an interesting story. You wanted to hear it twice. It's
No, I've been doing multitasking. So, but at some point you must have started.
It's fine. Just say so.
Oh, what?
If you were trying to mute me, it's fine. Just say so.
I'm not sure if this. Can I mute you? No, I can't. But at some point you.
I've been asking that for years. Can we just mute this motherfucker?
Dean asked that actually earlier.
Yeah.
I've got an inbuilt. Like no word of a lie. I can mentally mute him. No problem. Just. Yep.
You've learned to do this with all your clients. In a way. So how I mean you all know each other.
Me, like how do you mentally mute him? She's just asking me.
Sorry?
I said my girlfriend's just asking me, how do you mentally mute him? Because
so you three apparently know each other for a longer time. How did you all meet each other then?
I've known Spencer through a mutual friend of ours, Paul Harris, DJ actually from my local town, Catford, and he was a resident at the Milk Bar, maybe not the Milk Bar, but the Velvet Underground. And he used to do a night called Recession Session on a Monday night, it was like a student night, and he was the resident DJ, and I think that's where I met Spencer was also friends with Paul. Paul went on to
on a Monday.
Yeah.
And it was £5 to get in, and I used to go there, and I used to leave at 3 or 4 in the morning, get the last train back to Croydon, and then I used to get into bed at like 5:30, and then I used to get up at 7 to go to university.
And you, Chris, you might know Paul Harris. Paul Harris went on to record as Dirty Vegas. He had a big hit that was in I mean, it was a worldwide hit, but big in America. There was Days Gone By, and at that point, actually, and it's also very incestuous because Paul was also managed by Dave Durrell at that point as well. So, yeah, that's our little story.
And then, I mean, I met you, Matt, when I was a resident. So after I left university, I got a residency at a nightclub in Sheffield.
That's right.
Spencer's having his Bloody Mary there. Look, he's ever the show off.
He's off piste already.
He is off piste. Yeah. He likes to
multitask, Chris.
All right, great. Cheers.
He's mixing already.
Yeah, like I'm doing vodka as well.
Oh,
wait a minute. Is this the Skull vodka from Dan Aykroyd?
Yes.
No shit, really? Is it? I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I just 2 days ago I saw a YouTube video about Dan Aykroyd's Skull vodka and the purpose behind it. It's like literally insane. Yeah, but sorry, Dino. I didn't want to stop you.
I think, Dean, wasn't it around 2004, 2005? Was it earlier than that?
Yeah, I think, 2004. Like I had a residency at a nightclub in Sheffield, and Matt came up and played. And I was working for a record label then, and I'd already started kind of doing promotions and stuff. And then, we met, and we've kind of stayed in touch ever since. And like, weirdly, I genuinely can't put my finger on when me and Spencer actually met. It's been about what?
When I used to, I remember.
You probably avoid thinking about it.
No.
When you go through something traumatic, you try and repress it.
No, I mean, can you remember, Spen? I mean, like it's been about 15 years or something that we've been friends.
think I think it was. I always associate you, not with what was the club the really good club that you were resident at in Sheffield?
Urban Gorilla, yeah.
Yeah, I always remember you for being resident DJ there than anything else. I'm not sure if I was sending you records.
I don't know. My memory, it's really weird. Like I have I can remember what the credits are on certain records, but some of my friendships and stuff are just like, especially the music industry, where initially a name started out on a mailer when I was sending out a promo, and then some of these people are like my dearest friends now, and I genuinely can't remember. But yeah, I mean, we've also have quite a few mutual friends that kind of cross over in our relationships. But I think we got closer when I was working down in London, because I remember we were, I started playing on the kind of Sunday scene in London a fair bit, and yeah, I think that's when we properly sort of become mates.
So, Dean, can I ask you a quick question about your? When's the last time you DJed?
When was the last time I DJed? In a nightclub.
Yeah.
It was Panorama Bar, warming up for you.
Not a bad gig.
It's all right, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
Huh? Are we losing Matt?
Wow.
Matt, are we losing you?
Do you miss it at all? I mean, obviously.
Matt.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I think the internet in Berlin is.
Can you hear me?
Maybe.
I don't know.
As if you've got like a really
Can you hear me?
camera. It's weird.
We can hear you asking, can you hear me? But not much more, really.
Okay. I'll let Dean continue.
No, Matt, I think we can hear you now, so go.
No. I mean, I was just going to say, do you ever want to play like at parties and stuff, or you do you still have a setup at home? I don't know. Would you...
I mean, I do. Yeah, I've got I finally got the setup of my dreams, and I buy as many records as I ever did. In fact, I think I'm a lot better at buying records now that I'm not DJing. Right. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like I still love it, and it still really means a great deal to me. But I think I hit a point where doing what I do for a living, like, was kind of forcing me to. I mean, for a start, I stopped writing music because I was finding I was kind of writing music to keep putting music out so that I could get gigs, and I was starting to bore myself. Yeah. And then when I started to challenge myself as a producer, I realized I wasn't that good at it. So I found that
I don't agree with that, but carry on.
Right, but I started finding it frustrating that I couldn't write the stuff that I wanted. And then the gigs started to go off. And around that time, my career as a kind of PR and bits of management started to get a lot more serious. And I don't know, like, it sounds... I struggle kind of explaining it because it sounds like I'm almost dispassionate about it, but I hit a point where it was like, well, I either put a lot of effort into that, and it becomes a kind of something that I have to force and push through to do the career bit, or I focus on the thing that I think I'm genuinely better at, and I focus on the thing that I'm better at. And since then, I still love playing records, but I buy records. And I'll occasionally have a little mix upstairs in my room. Well, more than occasionally, quite frequently. And now it's like, it's a very kind of personal, nice thing,
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't that I kind of fell out of love with it. I'd still love to play in front of people, but to do that is, and this is one thing that I find, especially with younger producers and DJs and stuff, is it's fucking hard work. You've got to be super dedicated to it. As well as being good at it, you've got to throw everything at it. I mean, I'm studying
only if you care.
Well, this is the point. This is the point. And I'm talking to you three guys who, you're at stages in your careers where you are, and probably better than most. It's work. You really have to I mean, even though it might be the most enjoyable work on earth, it's time consuming. It requires an enormous amount of focus, and I guess that focus was something that was kind of slightly robbing me of the enjoyment of it for a start. And then secondarily, I think, put it this way, if you ask anyone who's ever heard me DJ in a nightclub, they'll probably say, I bet he's a fucking great PR.
That's right. Let's
You know what I mean?
all right. On behalf of Dean, I will say that his last gig was at a Work Then Records night, which is my label at Panorama Bar, which was fucking phenomenal on a Friday night. We did 2 there. Both were like super busy. Both were great on a Friday night, which is a little bit tough there sometimes on a Friday night. And yeah, I think he's been a little bit more modest than he needs to be.
Dean, when you were DJing in Sheffield, when was that? Because like every time I hear Sheffield, I'm like, because how far is Sheffield away from London again?
Oh, it's about 300.
Far enough. Not far enough.
Not far enough.
Yeah,
and you were working for a record label there? Because I mean, Martin Ware is from Sheffield, right?
Yeah.
Like the man behind Heaven 17, the man who started the Human League, right, and produced Being Boiled. For one of my heroes, really, that guy. And I mean, Sheffield is known for that kind of sound, especially in the 80s, right? Were you there at that time as well?
No, not at all. I'm originally from further north in Newcastle, but I went to kind of near Leeds for university. And then when I left university, I stayed in Leeds for a while. And Leeds is like, you know, where the LFO guys were from. So there was a big acid house scene there. And then I went to Sheffield for a couple of years after I finished university when I had this residency. So it was about 2003, 2004 onwards. But it's a really interesting city because it's actually quite the city centre is quite small. And I was working for a small record label. But, you know, I met people like Phil Oakey from the Human League.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you know, proper, really nice and really fun as well.
Really? Wow,
yeah.
amazing.
But there's a proper kind of scene up there, and it's very close. So I got to see and hear people like Winston Hazel and Maurice Fulton, and that kind of shaped me quite significantly around that time.
I played there a couple of times at a club called Bed, which was more like US soulful garage, like Masters at Work, people like that. And that was a fucking amazing club.
Dean, I wanted to ask you, you were just discussing, but where you were talking about, when you were DJing and that feeling where you had to, constantly put out a new track, that sort of fulfilling, I've got to do this, I've got to keep. Do you think that's relevant now, especially with the whole situation with COVID and what we're going through this year, where suddenly no one's touring, but is there, is there that challenge again where producers or artists have to, they've got to fulfill these like things, they've got to keep putting stuff out, or is it streaming? What's your view on that?
I've got a multitude of views on it, which is not very helpful. But I do think one of the biggest pitfalls of kind of where we're at now is it is extremely difficult to kind of make it as a DJ without having music out there. Let's face it, we all know that. But I think
so. That's number one for you guys out there to know.
It is tough. I mean, there are people like Ben UFO who've never made a record, and he's an outstanding DJ. But let's not forget, he's an outstanding DJ.
Yeah.
But generally, most people kind of believe that you have to put records out. But I also think that one of the things that constant touring and that need to put out records to make an impact, kind of, you can end up detracting from each art form. So I see so many really, really promising producers who will have like a big record early on, and then they will get lots of gigs and they'll be earning really good money, and they will try and do the old kind of make hay while the sun shines, and they will be out, and then they'll neglect the studio for a little while. Yeah. And that becomes a pattern in their career, and then suddenly they're kind of they fall out of love with the studio. But on the other hand, you also see like producers who haven't had that kind of big record, who just feel like they're more DJs, but they're forcing themselves to produce so that they can get heard and get attention. And I don't necessarily think kind of either of those things are fundamentally wrong, but I think the idea that being a DJ and being a producer have to be completely intertwined is a problem. I think you know, I think if you can do both, amazing, and obviously they feed into each other. Yeah. But if you can't, I think in some cases, maybe just focus on the one that you're like really, really good at, and hone that and kind of make it really good. But obviously, you know, that's kind of easy to say because there's economic issues. You know, you can't make a living really from putting out records these days, whereas you can as a DJ.
Yeah, there's a cool audience question that comes in handy right this. Ian Brook, by the way, if you ask questions on my YouTube side, would be great if you could just like address them at me, I think, because then I see my name with red. Can you see that? Red underneath. I'm not sure if you can see that. But anyways, Ian Brook asked the question because you were just talking about like releasing records in order to get gigs. Does content substitute for tracks these days?
Depends how good looking you are.
That's a good point. Gotta get my wig out.
So for me, it's fucking beautiful, but for you guys, I'm worried. If I'm going to be honest, I'm worried.
I don't know. I have problems with the word content for a start. Just because I think from a language point of view, it kind of devalues stuff a little bit. But you know, accepting that, you know, the meaning of the word, I think it can. But should it? I'm not so sure. I think, you know, if by content you mean you upload a SoundCloud, you want to make it as a DJ and you upload an amazing SoundCloud mix every month that you want to get people heard. But if by content you mean, you know, making a really interesting kind of image on Instagram and uploading it, don't get me wrong, you know, these things can be kind of artistically done and can have creative value. And, you know, to contradict myself, these also can get you gigs and can make you famous. But from a kind of personal point of view, I'm like, it's a bit shit, isn't it? It's like, who wants to be famous because they've got or you know, who wants to become known for having great social media content?
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question I would have then.
That's a really go on, Chris.
Sorry, Matt. Go on.
No, I was going to say that's an amazing way of putting it, Dean. That's great.
Yeah, but in that context, I would want to know in the scene that we're living in, which is let's say it's not really an overground commercial scene. Let's say we're still somewhat in an underground scene, are we? Like if you look at the bigger things of things, you know, if you are only getting famous because of your Instagram profile, how long are you going to be able to survive if you're a really bad DJ? Because I would argue if you're a really good DJ, then you're going to make it. No matter how you became famous, you will be able to sustain your level when you deliver really good gigs, you know? And I see some people do this, but probably there's some people who get famous because they put a lot of money in their content, in their Instagram content. But after 3-4 gigs, people will find out like, the DJing is not all that great. Or how long what do you think, where are we in our scene that a DJ who has not a lot of skills can survive solely on great Instagram photos?
I could answer that question in about 30 different ways and contradict myself each and every time. Because, but one thing I would say, like, if we remove myself from kind of an industry commentator and how I kind of think, but I think about myself as what I'm looking for in an artist that I feel passionate about. It's like, yeah, you know what? If you find an artist who has a brilliant way of marketing themselves, amazing. But, you know, they've got to kind of be able to kind of cash the checks that they're writing through that. So, you know, you could have an amazing Instagram profile, right? Which could say like in an exaggerated sense, it could end up where you have this most hyped Instagram profile, and then suddenly you have a full diary. You're right. If you're a shit DJ, then you're going to get kind of found out. But it also kind of then depends on how discerning the audience that you're playing for is.
Yeah, right.
And what that audience is for. You know, there are celebrity DJs who we all know who've kind of made a lot of money, and they've just kind of latched on to it and they brought their audience. But their audience isn't the kind of discerning audience that would come and see sort of any of you guys. You know, like I think that's the one thing. It's like it depends what you want to achieve and what the audience are really, and what their kind of demands on you are going to be. Yeah, like I say, it's a really difficult question to answer because there is no straight answer in it. And I think, but
by the way, the guy Ian Brook, who asked the first question, was referring more to like Arctic monkeys, for example, who use the platform as performance, obviously. So that would be the first thing that you answered. You know, if you put in really good content, performance-wise, will that substitute as releasing tracks?
Potentially, but you also have to understand the limitations of that kind of element of performance as well. So, you know, if for example, you know, say you could be a synth wizard, right? Or is it Mark Rigolet or something, you know, an amazing, you could upload exactly just like that, Chris. You could upload a year's worth of content and suddenly have everybody really, really interested in you. But that's an interesting way for me of using content to show off your skills. And I think
still maybe only 50 people show up to your gig.
Possibly, yeah. But you know, I think if you're genuinely showing like good skill and you're genuinely showing talent, I'd kind of think, well, that sort of thing can transmit through social media or Instagram really well.
Spencer, how do you deal with social media? Are you feeling pressured sometimes to post stuff? Because, like from my point of view, when I look back at this year, sedate me. You know, in the beginning, I felt more pressure to continuous, because when you were on tour, it was easy to get content. You know, you were just going somewhere, you take a picture of this airport, of this plane, and you just document your life, and you just like bang, 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 bang. You know, and then you suddenly sit only at home, and you're just like, oh, I gotta think of something to post, because otherwise people will forget about me. I mean, these are thoughts that come to you. I've become way more relaxed over the. I almost wanted to say years, decades since April. So I'm just don't give a shit anymore. But how you feel about that?
I've always used social media in a kind of, I hope, in a kind of fun way. I've always made silly jokes with my friends and sent silly memes to my girlfriend or my friends, and I've kind of used it a little bit for that. And also used it for, you know, to promote my career, which is why I'm there. To be blatant about it, you know, that's what it's there for. But you can also do things in a fun way, you know. Like back in the day, if you had a MySpace or a website, the website is there to promote your DJ career, but you can still make it look nice. You can still make it look in a cool way. But in terms of like what to post and stuff like that, I think it's people make fun of DJ Twitter, DJ Instagram, whatever, the whole thing of, oh, you know, here's a picture of me on the plane, blah blah blah.
So your manager doesn't tell you how to take pictures on your private planes and stuff like this?
He tells me to stop. He tells me to stop doing certain things.
Delete quickly. Delete.
Yeah.
Are you fucking crazy? You're destroying your career. Delete your post.
Delete
Dean, has that happened?
No one wants to see that, and you can't zoom in on it that much. So, yeah, stuff like that.
Has that happened in terms of me telling him to delete stuff?
Yeah.
Yes. Fucking yes. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know.
The charges for drop though.
No, I've definitely done that. Yeah.
No, but the way I look at it is like to a certain extent it is aspirational. You know, I remember, you know, going to university and looking at DJ Mag, and I'd be super interested to see if Masters at Work were playing in Brazil, and there was 7 pictures of them.
Yeah.
I'd be super interested in that. That to me is very, very interesting. If David Morales posts a picture of a record he's working on, and I, you know, not to compare myself to these guys, but, you know, talking about myself as a fan.
I think looking back though, Spencer, you could romanticize when we were younger, because you'd only have magazines and you would build a picture of a scene, or you would, you know, and that's, you know, you would look at these photos, or you'd read about New York.
Still a fan. I still want to see if Kenny Dopey's making a beat. I still want to see it. I'm still interested in seeing that. And I think it's very easy to make fun of, like, there's a way. I think there's, like everything, there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it. If you're a fan and if you're enthusiastic about stuff, like, I like this record. This record's amazing.
Yeah.
That is like being a fan of something. If you're posting a picture of you and a cat, and then you say, "What's your favorite cat? Do you like cats? What's your favorite cat?" To get loads of comments underneath to increase engagement.
I think it's such a difficult topic to engage.
Yeah, no one's perfect at it, you know.
No, exactly. I mean, I tend to come at it initially from kind of like quite a scientific point of view. So, like, you know, like, if we've got a record to promote, we need as many people to kind of see those posts as possible. But I also have realized that social media algorithms are really, really complicated, and they're ever changing. And also, I think one of the things in an area of the music industry like ours that is the most important thing is to kind of be like authentic and be true to yourself. I mean, you know what? There's times when I've said to Spencer, "Oh, look, you know, don't do that with your social media because it will reduce the reach." And then I actually like catch myself and go, "What the fuck am I saying? Like, that's not important in the grand scheme of things. Like, we can find a way around it, you know. Like there's no perfect way of handling. Social media is a brilliant marketing tool. It's also a brilliant tool for staying in touch with people. It's a brilliant tool for being social. Like, there's so many different uses, and there's so many different ways that you can use it, or even importantly, there's so many ways that you can choose not to use it. Yeah. You know, Ricardo Villalobos doesn't use any social media, hasn't really done his career any harm. You know,
I think
that's like the Ben UFO argument. It's like, yeah,
I mean, being authentic is like the most important thing, but being authentic sometimes goes really against the algorithm, right?
Yeah, it does. But in that case, then sometimes you have to take a step back and go, well, why am I doing this? Because if you're on there and you're being authentic, but you're not talking to anyone, set up a personal Instagram account and just hang out with your friends, you know, and focus your areas on other stuff, like creative stuff, you know, like focus your area. Instead of doing that Instagram post once a day, maybe use Twitter, or maybe just not use any of them and spend that extra half an hour in the studio. I mean, actually, one of the things that I would say over the last sort of year is fucking, I think almost everyone out there could do with using a little bit less social media, particularly in the music industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, Matt, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I think this year's a great time to learn something. I mean, you get off social media, you know, and, you know, this is what's so great actually on social media when you see guys like Kink or maybe even Chris, or, you know, you got people, you know, who maybe have the time and aren't touring to finally sit in a studio and show kids or show young guys, girls, how they make tracks. And that's, I think, this year's what's been great, you know, with everyone being in lockdown, or the things that Carl Cox has been doing, you know, finally having the time to not be on that plane tired and traveling, but sit down and
I don't want to see that. I want to see them in their swimwear. Otherwise, what's the fucking point?
You know, I think that's learning experience is really, really important. And what I've learned for myself over the past month was, you know, you always want to try to get as big as of a reach as possible. That was usually the goal. You know, you just get as big of a reach as possible. But I kind of learned not to give a shit about this anymore. You know, it's just like when we do this show, for example, I'll post about it, of course, because I want to tell everyone we're doing this show. But I'm not going to post the hell out of it because I don't want to put so much energy into this. Because in the end, I feel like, you know, the people who are going to join and watch this, they're the right people. You know, and even if it's only 10 people, it's fine. And the same thing with my DJ streams. I had literally DJ streams where I didn't even post about it. I just started playing. And I felt like, you know, that makes the circle of everyone who's really interested in this, what you're doing right now, so much more precious. And it's such a nice group of people. And that's what I wanted to say quickly. Thanks to my friends that Chris and Alessio from Italy, who basically gave me the gift of big cases of all sorts of varieties of beers last week. You know,
that was beautifully done, Chris. That was beautifully done.
I'm currently drinking that. And you know,
done.
But the thing is, I'm streaming, and in the beginning of my streams, you know, we had some really successful streams in the beginning because we promoted the hell out of it, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, still in early April when I did like one Italy stream where we joined together with all sorts of agencies in Italy and clubs, and we basically cross-posted this stream that I did on so many Facebook pages and pages from individual clubs and promoters and everything that I think we had a reach of 1 million people, like literally watching that stream. And then I did one, which I didn't announce, and there was like 500 people watching. I think I was even happier with only those 500 people at one point. And that made me feel so much, it was liberating in a way. You know, it was just like, thanks guys, that's great. You know,
There's a British comedian, a guy called Stuart Lee, who he really doesn't like playing the media game. He doesn't do social media and stuff. And I'm going to kind of paraphrase him here, but it's something that I've talked to you about it, Spencer, and Jeff, and you know, other people that I work with and people that I PR'd and stuff as well. That I think sometimes it's better to have 10 people who really give a fuck about what you're doing and who really want to engage with what you do than to have 100 casual listeners who may be interested in something you do, and then you know they may not be. You know, it's better to appeal to the people who are passionate, and that's one of the things that I think you can get really loose with focusing on data metrics. If you're an artist, certainly people like me, managers and marketers, okay, we should worry about that. But if you're an artist, when you get really focused on, oh shit, that post didn't get 200 likes this time, it's like, okay, well maybe the last post that did was maybe those likes were coming from people who actually don't really give a fuck about what you're doing. You know, it's much better to just focus on a core audience who give a shit about what you do and engage those really passionate people, and then that will grow. That will grow on its own. What won't grow is having a huge audience that are they just don't care.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I think something about the whole lockdown thing, or the COVID-19 thing, is maybe giving a lot of us pause for thought. Is the whole idea of like, how much is enough? You know, if you're used to traveling like so as much as some of us used to travel, like 2, 3, 4 gigs in a weekend, or even 1 or 2 gigs in a weekend, you know, it's like, how much is enough? Is, you know, is it enough to like just play once or twice in 1 week instead of 3 or 4 times? Yeah, maybe. That's not so bad.
And then the question came up, is there a difference of playing in a festival in front of 10,000 people or a club for 500? I don't think you can really compare that to the streams. That's the question where, like, you cannot really compare that. Obviously, playing in front of 10,000 people in a big tent on a festival is quite a high energy experience, you know,
Yeah.
because you have these people right in front of you. While if you do a stream, you just see a number, and that really like does the number. What does the number tell you? It's like, oh great, 700,000 people watch me, or like 70 people watch me. Does it really make a difference in that moment for you? Unless you constantly think about it, oh, so many people are watching. Are you going to do something different? But you obviously do something different if you have 10,000 people in front of you, like looking at you and expecting something.
I'm sure that in years to come, they'll come up with a way that you can feel it, or there's a way of engaging so you can feel off other people's energy online. Maybe that will come, Chris.
Like kind of electrical chairs that give you impulses.
Something like that.
Well, that sounds freakishly dystopian.
Yeah. But there is, I mean, there's the thing that nothing can compare. That's the sad truth, isn't it? Where, you know, we dance alone, or what's your one called, Chris? I can't read it, but
alone together.
Alone together. I mean, it's you know, it's never going to be the same, is it? As you said, as being in a tent, 10,000 people, or even being in a sweaty club with 150 people. You know, those magical
moments. Even being in a basement with like 50 people chained up. It's like, stuff like that.
Wait a minute, 50 people chained up in a basement? Where did you play last time?
Let's get back to raves. But you know, it's how it is.
But to play devil's advocate there, though, you know, as Chris, you said initially, you can't compare these things, and you're right, they're not comparable. They're very different things. So, you know, an artist such as yourselves can do a stream, and you can see everyone's commenting, and because you say you haven't played a gig in a long while, you can see everyone commenting, and it's not the same. It's not comparable. It's not the same thing. However, you can take some enjoyment out of the fact that, you know, people are commenting, people who haven't heard you. You might see a nice comment where it's lit up someone's day, or someone's passionate about a record, or someone's discovered an artist in your set and then went, oh, you know, I love this artist now. This is great. It's like, they're very different things.
But Dean, do you think that people are I mean, obviously, people are chasing these figures, aren't they? I mean, now with streaming, and I mean, especially with things like in Berlin with this you know, this streaming platform, and there's, you know, a lot of young DJs. I mean, but isn't this a kind of it's not really a reflection of maybe the real picture of when things maybe do come back to normal, if they do, that, you know, it's not a reflection of that, of how it works. You know, you might have people looking for like 12,000, 20,000, you know, people watching the stream. That's maybe not a reflection of maybe how it is in the real world with getting shows.
No, and you know what? Like, if we want to kind of take things back into the old school, like, you know, I think it's not necessarily a facet of technology. Like, you know, back in the day, there were producers that put out records that nobody wanted to hear them play clubs. Like, there was no demand for it.
Yeah,
because they weren't known as a DJ. So I think that disconnect between kind of the perceived numbers or the perceived audience or something has always been there. You know, like, I think if you do a stream and it just gets numbers, or if that's what all you're focused on, then you know, you stand a good chance of being disappointed.
Yeah.
One of the other things about, you know, I think I know for a fact that you always come at this from an artistic point of view, and I think that's a healthy way of doing it. I think you know, there's probably a lot of younger artists out there, or kind of artists starting up, who want to get tips on this about, you know, how they stand out and how they get attention. And I can give loads of little tips about how to stand on social media, or how to play the algorithm, or how to get your numbers up a little bit. But it all boils back down to, like, you kind of have to really want to be a good artist, or a good performer, or a good DJ.
Yeah,
that's got to be the focus. Because if you start worrying about everything else, like, you're gonna lose sight of the first thing, and you'll stop putting the time and energy into the one thing that will actually ultimately work for you.
But don't you? This is the thing, Dave. Don't you think we are driven by numbers? Like, I mean, I just got off a call yesterday with Leon about Spotify, and it's everything is now about numbers, whether it's streaming numbers, you know, engagement numbers. That's the world we're living in now. It's really, it's crazy compared with maybe the word of mouth, going to a record shop vibe, early 90s, where you could go to a record shop in London and you could sell like 10,000 copies of one record. You know, it's like, it was.
You're right. Everything is more driven by numbers these days.
Yeah.
However, they always were. We just weren't bombarded with the level of data
Yeah, for sure.
have access to, particularly as artists. You know, at any given time, you could log into your social media or a kind of social media analysis software which analyzes Spotify and stuff. I use these sort of things.
Yeah.
And you know, you can look at all of this data and stuff.
Yeah.
But you could also then look at a bunch of feedback from your colleagues and from an artistic point of view. And I know you for a fact would much rather see that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean,
I don't think things have changed much in terms of the fact that everything is driven by numbers, because I think it always was. I just think now there is we put too much importance on it now because because it's just pushed into our faces. I think if you force yourself to disconnect from that, you can kind of like get yourself to kind of a nice position, because also you can let other people worry about it.
Yeah,
you know,
I think we don't. This is the thing. We're not. I mean, I know as well. You're a music lover. We're all music lovers, and we don't value it like this, do we? So we might love an artist that has, like we've said, who isn't on social media. Someone like Crown Prince of Denmark. They have no interest in it. You know, they're not on Spotify, yet we love their music. So, yeah.
I'd be very interested to hear it from a promoter's point of view.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, numbers mean money, right? Just so in a way for a lot of people, you know, numbers equals money.
Yeah, going back to something that you said before, or the question from Ian, I think it was, which is like, how do you know, is it possible to, you know, talking about content or whatever? I think it, you know, or you know, there's DJs out there.
You're on the Willy Wonka now.
But by the way, I posted the YouTube link on my YouTube channel about that Dan Aykroyd weird vodka that you were drinking. It's the link for that video. You got to watch that. Is on my YouTube channel.
According to Dan Aykroyd, it's one of the purest vodkas in the world. So
according to Dan Aykroyd, but watch the video, you learn more about it. It's funny. Anyways, I didn't want to interrupt.
After one or two bottles, you know, you don't care whether it's real.
You don't really care about numbers anymore. Yeah. You know, the funny thing is, I was always scared of numbers. When I remember back in I think in '97, I joined Prime Distribution in London.
Spencer Broughton.
No, wait a minute. Was it 97? I think it was 99. I'm wrong. I joined Prime Distribution 99, and they went bankrupt in 2003. Okay, actually, they went bankrupt right when I released my album, and my first album sold really well, I think, and then they went bankrupt, so I never got any money of that. But what I wanted to say is, like, I've never really asked for sales numbers. I never really wanted to know them. I was always scared for numbers. Matt, are you looking at sales numbers? Obviously, if you have to talk to artists, they probably want to know sales numbers. But up till today, I honestly... I don't want to know the numbers because I'm scared of them, because I'm scared because I probably will be like disillusionized or depressed, like, oh, I thought it's more, you know.
Chris, it's a good point. And I had a chat with Leon Oki, who's my label manager at Records yesterday. And this is the thing, and we should maybe talk about the limitations of or artists' expectations, especially in the music industry in 2020.
Yeah, and if I just want to add, like, I never wanted to be driven by numbers. Like, whatever I do shouldn't be driven by numbers, rather by opinions of trusted colleagues.
Yeah, of course, and I'm the same. But I think we're living in a world where, of course, a lot of people are consuming music via Spotify and through streaming platforms, and so, of course, they're bypassing record stores, all of the usual channels that I'm looking at hardbacks every day or every other day. It's always in my browser or Dex or you know, Bandcamp. But these aren't the go-to platforms for a lot of people who would just go to Spotify. So that's what we're looking at. You know, even with a company or label such as Records, you know, these are the platforms where that's what's generating money or for sales for us, you know, because people aren't buying so much vinyl. I mean, what DJs that were playing vinyl, they're not DJing this year, so maybe they're not buying records.
I don't think
different landscape, you know, this year.
I don't think DJs on the whole, working DJs, have been buying vinyl for many years. I think it's passionate vinyl collectors who buy vinyl. I think DJs tend to buy files.
Yeah.
I think clubbers tend to consume stuff from Spotify. And actually, I think Spotify and streaming platforms like Deezer and Apple Music and Tidal, they actually also have an element of crossover. So, you know, if I buy a record, chances are I'll probably listen to it in the car using Apple Music. I'll probably listen to it Spotify at home. So you get all this kind of cross-platform thing. But I mean, to jump back to what you're saying about numbers, like numbers are really important. If you want to run a record label, you have to make ends meet. If you want to be an artist and you want to do it for a living, you have to make ends meet. So you have to keep an eye on it. But I think a really good question for any artist to ask themselves is, if you put out a release, right, and you put your effort into it and you tick all the boxes for PR and marketing, and it doesn't sell well, right, you can tweak the marketing, you can tweak the PR. But if you've done it everything the way you feel like you wanted to do it, and it turns out that people didn't necessarily want to consume that record, are you really going to go back and do something differently with that record? Are you really going to create something differently to get a wider audience? It's like, you know, because if you are, then you're not really kind of, you know, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think, I don't know. It's a really complex thing, because, you know, you have to keep an eye on all of these things because they're important. Especially if you want to make a living. And let's face it, you know, if you're in music, the ideal scenario is that you can make a living out of it.
But Dean, it's not just about making a living. It's also about making sure that the music that you're passionate about and the music that you love, that you sign from, whether it's a young producer or an established artist, gets the maximum exposure that it can, you know, and it doesn't get lost. And that's, I think, over the last few years, we've definitely seen it. It's hard. It's become harder and harder with so many titles coming out every week. You're up against so many records, so many different, you know, whether it's a vinyl release, blah, blah, blah. There's so much competition, you know, and
there's so many great records and great producers and artists that are underexposed and who may stop writing music. But you know what? As awful as it sounds, it's kind of, that's where we've got. You know, Chris was mentioning that electronic music is kind of underground, relatively speaking, but I think now we're just like sort of house and techno. We're a niche of the wider music industry. And, you know, the wider music industry, the barriers to getting music out there have come down, which is a great thing. But it means that it's an awful word, but the marketplace is much bigger. And it's harder to kind of stand out, which is why it all falls back to like, right, okay, the numbers kind of count. But again, I think if you're an artist who's purely focused on the numbers, you need to really think about why you're doing it.
But if you focus on the numbers, it can become a really frustrating business really quickly.
Let's put all the business shit to one side. If you focus on numbers, the impact on your mental health can be fucking frightening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If you're sat there just waiting for social media numbers to go up so that you get that little dopamine hit. I mean, you know, I know established producers who will number watch, and I'm like,
wow.
It's not good for you. It's really not good for you, you know.
So you think I did it intuitively right since over 20 years now?
Yeah. It's like, it's fine. I mean, look, you know, I'm not going to be an idealist about it and be like, well, you know, if you stay true to yourself and you put out the art one, you'll find your audience, because the reality is, you know, you might not, but we all have to admit that if you spend all of your time worrying about the numbers, then you're probably fucked from the beginning.
Yeah.
So don't worry about numbers.
But in a way, yeah. I mean, it is essentially a really frustrating business, not in a business kind of sense. Let's say a frustrating industry. It can be if you are focusing on the wrong matters in a way, or on the wrong issues, right?
Well,
because if you're focusing on issues like, I want to have the biggest numbers, you're releasing an album a week later, your album is already released a week, nobody cares about it anymore, everybody moves on. You're going to be extremely frustrated because you just wanted to make it. Because then ultimately you don't care if it's going to be okay or not. If there's 10 people out there who like it, you're fine with it. That's why I put all this energy in there. But if you're really looking for numbers, you can get really mentally frustrated really quickly.
Chris, this is the thing. I think for young people wanting to get into the music industry that are watching this, it can be so deceptive, because a lot of artists, of course, a lot of the projects they're doing are pure vanity projects. You know, like you see these records that come out and they're like glossy sleeves, 180 gram. But they're losing money. They're losing money on these releases. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors in our world. Because people use these tricks to boost.
Right. It's bullshit.
There's no dance music on that one.
Fucking bullshit.
You know what? Like, there's if we're talking about the intricacies and the kind of the fact that numbers can kind of drift into the esoteric kind of artistic process of music. And again, this is all sort of a debate that we could go round and round in circles. But I think genuinely, one of the things that I like working with Spencer about is that when you get into these sort of conversations with him, you'll just do something fucking stupid like that. And then I actually think, well, you know what? That's how you should kind of come at it from an artist if you can. Just like fucking don't sweat that shit too much.
Yeah.
Try your hardest.
You don't need to be a mathematician, do you, with him?
No. I mean, actually, this is one really interesting thing I was going to say earlier on about the numbers.
It helps to look gorgeous.
That's
just me.
Like if you get too obsessed with numbers, the one thing that everyone should take a step back and realize is that interpreting the value of those numbers is something that a fucking extremely qualified, intelligent statistician would need to do.
Yeah.
So, and most people aren't qualified to do that. So don't get bogged down in it. Find your audience, like tweak your marketing, take care about what you're doing, network, put your records out, find a PR, do a bit of PR yourself, hire a manager, all this sort of stuff.
Dean, do you think that people are still, we still living in people still buying likes, artists and stuff, and management companies?
Right. Well, I've got some interesting.
Why are you trying to talk about that person like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got some really interesting thoughts on that, because I see some very big established.
Strap in, everyone.
I see some very big established DJs going on social media quite a lot about this person bought likes and that, and I'm sure that people have been, right? But the reality is, most people with intelligence or management companies learned a long time ago, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, that buying likes is a false economy when it comes to social media, because those likes don't engage. Also, another nightmare is I see some people going, oh, that artist's got 300,000 likes on Facebook, but they only get 3,000 followers, but they only get 150 likes on a post. They must have bought the followers. And again, that's a false equivalence. That doesn't make sense, because if you're an artist who's had a 15-year career, you'll have people who liked your profile, engaged with you for 2 months or a year when they're at university, and then stop using Facebook, or just forget to unlike you, or because of the nature of Facebook's algorithms, don't they don't see your post. So I don't think buying likes is as prevalent as people like to make out. I do think there are people who have done it. I do think there are people
not as prevalent as it was a few years ago, like buying like to Mexico or India for.
No, I mean there are some people. I mean when that Facebook demographic analytic tool came out, there was a few fucking obvious people.
How dare you, Dean?
Who had definitely done it.
No,
but
stop
you know,
From
but
Mexico.
as Spencer knows,
No.
offering €15 for likes, it just doesn't work, does it, Spen?
No, because
Not enough.
Speaking for myself, I managed to stay unpopular across every platform.
That's the one thing that I love about working with Spencer.
That's because of my music. It comes to my heart.
Is the consistent ambivalence of his audience. So, you know, it's a demographic that we really know how to appeal to or not appeal to.
Or not appeal to, you know.
Yeah,
they don't like me.
The buying likes thing, I think,
it's natural.
I think it has happened in the past. I think it might happen now, but I definitely don't think it's as prevalent as people like to think.
Huh. So, Dean, what would your advice be? I'm already at my second beer. I see that. What would your advice be? Because like this is real time advice now. I don't really treat my Facebook page with love, to be honest, because I don't treat Facebook with love. So since Instagram has that function that you just post something on Instagram and you just link it to Facebook, I've ended up like, sorry, Facebook, not even looking at it anymore. But I have like right now, I have my Facebook page open right in front of me on my phone. And I don't know, I've had a Facebook page since 2007 or 2008. And there was a time where like everybody was on Facebook and people were just following you. So I think I have like 720,000 Facebook followers. Yeah. But I do believe about 690,000 of those don't have an internet connection anymore. And
actually, this is...
And literally only 70 people, I would say only 70 people. I want to say one thing. Those 70 people who are watching on Facebook now, you guys are great because you're watching this without any algorithm, without any promotion, without anything pushing it forward. And that's the crazy thing. A lot of people would go insane thinking like, oh, what is that? 0.001% of all your suspected followers that you have on Facebook are only watching this show right now. Am I doing something wrong? No, I don't really think I'm doing something wrong because I think those 70 people, they're the right 70 people. These are the right 70 people that are watching.
But also, like, this is what I was saying about to try and interpret all this stuff, you have to understand algorithms and you also have to understand statistics. And you have to understand how the way numbers work. So Chris, because you've had quite a long career, right? You know, like it's what I was just saying about, like, you know, you might have got the bulk of those likes in the early days. And
right.
Those people probably don't care about techno. But one thing people don't really do unless you offend them is unlike pages. So generally, what will happen is they'll stop engaging with your posts, and then after a little while, Facebook will stop pushing your posts into their feeds. And, you know, so they move. So they're dead contacts. And I think that's what accounts for a lot of likes, which is why you get a lot of people going, oh, they've got big numbers, but they've not got a lot of likes. But jumping about what you were saying about, because there's a good bit of advice that I can suggest for people, especially people who are kind of developing a bit of a kind of profile or whatever, or trying to get some attention for their music, is if you find one social media like Facebook or something, if you find it a pain in the fucking arse, right? Don't worry about it. Just fucking don't worry about it. Focus on the other one. If you find that, like if like Spencer, for example, really uses Facebook, you rarely use Twitter, Instagram for you because you're comfortable with Instagram and you can be yourself on Instagram, and that's how you engage with it. So you can put the time in there, and it's like, well, you know, you don't have to do all of these things, because the reality is that doing all of them really well requires a fair bit of knowledge, time, and energy. And again, that's stuff that sucks away from you being an artist.
I've learned a lot from Dean. The whole, like Dean has said things to me about the whole process of like social media, things that would never ever just occur to me. I would, you know, things like, okay, I've worked really hard. I've got an EP coming out. The EP's got 4 tracks. So it comes out on Thursday. I'm going to post all 4 tracks so people can hear them. I've worked so hard on this. It means so much to me. I want everyone to hear the 4 tracks because they took a long time. So I'm going to post all 4 tracks. And then someone like Dean will say, well, no, because then if you post 4 at once, it sucks the engagement from one or the other. But I mean, I have no idea about that. I'm excited to do that. But it, you know, it just keeps moving so much that it's it's crazy. I come from it from a point of excitement and from wanting to share what I've done. But like, you know, Dean says, like the algorithm.
I know, and we're back at that. The authenticity goes against the algorithm, right?
Yeah, Sorry,
and
I'm
it's
not expressing it very well, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think, you know, most people say, like, if you want to be really successful on Instagram, on Facebook, you have to you have to interact with your fans. I mean, I love to interact with my fans. That's what I'm doing with my streams. You know, I'm interacting with them. I'm trying to be there. I'm trying to give something. But I see a lot of artists who kind of like answer like literally every comment in the Instagram, and I'm sure that helps the algorithm like immensely to be out there, right? Because Instagram sees like, oh, this guy's a lot on Instagram, we're going to give him a big window. Oh, this guy is rarely on Instagram, we give him a little window. But yet still, and I apologize to the people who follow me, I would love to spend more time answering your comments and be more engaging, but it takes away time of what I'm trying to do musically or artistically, and maybe also being a father and having a family and all these things, you know. So you kind of have to, like, you know, and if you only follow that algorithm, it's going to drive you nuts in your life. It's just going to completely drive you nuts. You're going to change your behavior in order to please a fucking algorithm. And yeah, I'm just not willing to do that.
I mean, there's nothing I love more than talking about myself, but there's an extent to it. I'm a massive fan of me.
We know all about
that. So you answer your own comments all the time.
Well, you know, enough about me. Let's talk about my career. No, but all jokes aside, there's things, you know, kind of following up what you said, there's things that you would do as an artist that come from, like, before, you know, I'm a fan. I'm a fucking fan of Chris. I'm a fan of Matt. I'm a fan of Masters at Work. I'm a fan of David Rallies, you know. I follow these people because I'm a fucking fan. So I love them. Loved them for a long time. I make music for me to play, first and foremost. And if I've spent a long time on it and I put out a 4-track EP, I'm excited. Not because I think I'm the fucking shit and I'm better than anyone else, but that shit took me a long time. And I'm really, really excited about it. So for me, it's natural to go, oh, here's all 4 tracks. But because I don't know how the game works, and if I put 4 tracks, they suck out the engagement or the whatever, you know, all that sort of stuff, then it's, you know, Dean will say to me, oh, don't post all 4 on the same day, blah, 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 blah. And it's, it's the Wild West.
But the thing is I'm like someone who studied marketing, who deals with, like, you know, social media platforms every day. You know, it's like, we can't expect every DJ and producer to kind of have that information. And
for sure.
Again, it kind of jumps back to that thing, is that if you start to fall down those holes, you kind of go, well, actually, you can't get too bogged down in worrying about it. You know, it's fine if you've got someone like me to go, maybe don't do that. But if you haven't, or, you know, if you can only afford a bit of time to, like, maybe read a couple of hours worth of blogs on how to get the most out of Instagram, then, you know, like, you know, take that on board and stuff. But again, it's like worrying about it and, like, it becoming the sole focus. It's not good. It's not good.
I'm not worried about it. I just mean that I think sometimes the people that are genuine fans and genuine like love what they do, you know, maybe the people that maybe I'm just a fan of it, and I'm just so excited to do it. And I think sometimes there's people that aren't so creatively into it, but look at it as a bit more contrived. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
You know what I'm trying to say? I just
No, I mean, there's always people in the music industry who've been better marketers than they've been artists.
True.
And actually, there's people in the arts. You know, Andy Warhol was a better marketer than he was an artist.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Damien Hirst or whoever.
Yeah, and then, but then, you know, then you get into that really interesting conversation and go, well, is the marketing part of the art?
Exactly.
And then we sit there for the next 24 hours just digging ourselves bigger conversational holes about it.
That's a 24 hours DJs and Beers show. There we go. We have a topic for a 24 hours DJs and Beers show. That's great.
If only we had the time.
Yeah, just also then becoming preoccupied with the numbers just going down and down.
But you know what? You could
The irony.
Yeah, you could argue one thing. Let's say you're really, really like talented producer, and you would have two ways to go. You could either spend all your energy into producing a super great hit, or you take a lot of energy into because you're good at marketing too, into building up your Instagram profile and become an influencer and have millions of followers by doing this, you know. But I would argue, if you're a really talented producer, just fuck the social media, produce that monster hit, and 2 days later you have 10 million followers on Instagram because you just had the monster hit, right?
Exactly. Look, there's no fucking magic bullet.
There is no magic bullet, nothing.
And there never was. And you know, even though now we've got all of these different tools and kind of ways of talking to people and communicating with audiences and promoting ourselves and stuff, like, you know, like not one thing works on its own, but you also can't use all of them. So you just have to.
And also the thing is as well, with all these things, like even with TikTok and all these things that are happening, what do they need? They need music. You know, they're all now searching for music content to fill the gap. You know, you can have a great video, someone dancing or whatever. You need music. You know, and the music is the answer in that respect, you know, and having great music and you know, finding unique, of course, unique music as well that's different as well, that people haven't heard. And again, that's where producers who are making their own path, creating their own vibe, they're the guys that or girls that are going to stand out, you know, that maybe don't follow the trends, who stick, you know, who do their own thing, you know.
Well, this is something I generally think the most passionate people, the kind of top tier, you know, the fans you really want, the ones who are going to like really, really give a fuck about what you do. They're the ones who go out of their way to find new people. They're the ones. I mean, I've noticed Bandcamp obviously has got an enormous amount of press this year for good reason, right? Because they seem to be doing it really well. But Bandcamp's like search engine is fucking terrible. Like, it's awful.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I use it as a fan to try and find.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like people seem to enjoy just kind of stumbling on stuff on it, and it's kind of, it's got that it's almost got that kind of element of like record store discovery. So it feels like a lot of the really passionate people are going on there and blundering and finding like really interesting stuff. And, you know, you could be an artist who puts up a Bandcamp page, doesn't do any social media, and you might get stumbled on. You might get stumbled on by a huge advocate of Bandcamp who also happens to be a journalist. Someone like Joe Muggs, who's a veteran UK journalist who is like loves Bandcamp. He writes for Bandcamp as well on the editorial platform. But, you know, he discovers so much stuff and he talks about it. And I'm like, those artists wouldn't get an audience, but they've had someone just stumble across them, and that's like, it's perfectly viable that you can get that little bit of luck. It's just, you know, you can't like engineer that, and you can't engineer everything, This is what I keep going back to, is that like you can't do everything. You can't be an artist, a DJ, a marketer, a social media expert, a marketing expert, a legal expert. You know, I mean, that's why people like me exist.
So Dean, I've got a question for you for 2020. I mean, have you seen any like new trends coming through, even though people aren't clubbing in 2020? Are there any new musical trends in the UK? I mean, do you have the same thing in Berlin, like this super fast techno? Is that a big thing in the UK, or?
It's difficult to say, because obviously you can't really gauge the water apart from gauge the water.
I saw that I think in December that the what's it called, Pickle Factory are gonna do gigs at Oval Space.
Yeah,
these social distancing 150 people raves. Are these going to happen even if, I mean, I guess lockdown's impending? No, or
it's difficult to say. I mean, a lot of the UK have gone into lockdown and stuff, and we have this 3-tiered system which has kind of been locally applied. So if someone goes into the highest tier, then gatherings like this probably will become they'll be impossible.
But with back to the music, I mean, are there any have you seen any changes in this year regarding musical trends within the UK?
I think something which is a continuation of a trend that we had coming in last year, which is there's definitely a new eclecticism. I think the idea of DJs playing one genre, one tempo, which is definitely, don't get me wrong, it's existed. It's always existed. But I feel like it's definitely winning more of an audience over the last sort of 2 years. And actually, it kind of makes a lot of sense when people are doing socially distanced parties that hearing DJs, people like Bradley Zero and stuff, that are, and I don't mean just like from a nightclub format, that are hugely like musically informed and are kind of approaching DJing almost as if, similar to like kind of how they would approach radio. But yeah, I think there's a new eclecticism, and I think not having traditional dance floors is kind of helping breed that a little bit.
Because we had a dinner. Who's the guy we had dinner with? Spencer, with Adam, with Jamie. What's his name?
Epstein, the old guy with the grey hair, Jeffrey.
No, the guy that looks after who's the manager dude we went for dinner with, and he was talking about basically high street house, this genre that's taking over. Like basically pop house is becoming a thing now. Yeah,
pop house has been fucking big for ages. Just people are finding a way to talk about it. I mean, like
I'm sure it's even bigger now that there's no clubs open. And with radio, it's just radio streaming or social distancing raves. Surely the more pop it becomes, the more popular it will become.
I don't know if it's grown.
Right.
I don't know if lots of people are going, oh God, I can't listen to I can't listen to the latest Shed record in a nightclub. So I'm gonna listen to Radio 1 and a pop house record. I don't think that's happening, but I definitely think the vacuum of kind of nightclubs is perhaps making other stuff more prominent. But I don't know. I think that I don't want to use the high street house term because it sounds horrible. But I think
it sounds horrible. It is horrible.
I think that pop house thing's actually been pretty prevalent for the last couple of years. I think I think it's really difficult to identify trends when there aren't any nightclubs because these trends tend to
when we're all locked away.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think something that's been happening over the last few years is the acceptance that a DJ shouldn't necessarily be playing the same tempo and the same genre all night. And I think it's been creeping in for a long while. But I definitely think now is like it's like the perfect social scenario.
So a DJ can play Toto Africa and Boys in the same set.
Oh, who are you talking about there, Matt?
I don't know. I keep hearing.
I like that music collection, that music selection.
Yeah, it's great. I mean,
you can invite Spencer Parker over to DJ for at some point.
What I'm enjoying about Spencer is that he just keeps leaving.
What is it? Does he brew his own beer?
It's funny enough, we had the same when Eats Everything was on the show. He kept on
Right.
and then he was really chatty when he came back. Funny.
I know, Dan. I'm not going to comment on that.
Spencer, they were already asking if you brew your own beer while you're gone.
You do your own gear.
I'm a man of many talents, but that's not one of them.
Yeah, I think he's gone to the toilet. But yeah, I don't know. I think trends are really difficult to get. I think one, I don't know. I've got like a little kind of untested hypothesis is that I reckon by the time sort of clubbing gets back to normal, whatever stage it's at next year, I definitely think I hope we'll see a lot less club filler records.
Right.
I think without people kind of going, that's good enough to engage people because it's just a kind of, you know, a kind of, I don't want to say generic because it sounds thing, but like
that's my whole label. Fuck.
But like, you know what I mean? Like a generic club banger. Like I think if I was sitting down to write a record now, I'd be thinking a little bit more beyond the dance floor. Yeah. A little bit kind of like, well, how can I make something that will beyond making them dance? And I think that could be a beautiful thing. Could be a beautiful thing for house music if we start getting like more songs again and song structures. Could be a beautiful thing for techno if we see more melody creeping in and stuff that people can genuinely hold.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be lovely. Whether it happens,
I would love that. I mean, Dean, you're totally right. Especially with, I mean, of course with house, but especially with techno, where, you know, especially with like all these early Detroit classics that were built around music and melody, it would be amazing if people.
No. It has to be as hard as possible. Yeah.
Now, Dean, I think you're
as hard as possible. It has to be as hard as possible. It just has to be hard. It just has to be as hard as possible. Otherwise, forget about it.
But Dean, I think you got a really good point there. I thought about this a lot too, because I thought, you know, when clubs open again, and please at some point, and we all go back to work, I'm sure, and very justifiably so, people will expect on the dance floor, like they will be standing there saying, like, you guys just had like almost a year at home thinking about what the fuck you're going to be doing, what music you're producing, what are you going to be playing. So you better do something really good now. Nothing generic, nothing filling. Like, we're expecting like some really good stuff of you now because you've spent some good time locked away trying to think what to come up with some new stuff. So let's get some new stuff. That's kind of my idea of people. They will come with a certain expectation to the club now. Could that be?
I have that kind of desire, an artistic ideal. But I also think that if someone opened a nightclub 10 meters away from me now and was playing 128 kbps MP3 of a really bad kick drum, and they were going to play that for 9 hours, I'd be fucking in there.
You're going to punch him.
That's literally that's all I'd want. Just a loud kick drum.
Well, we can ask our audience. What do you think?
Yeah, but I don't think it's very nice of Dean to bring up Matt's DJ sets like that whilst he's out of the room. But I mean, obviously, I agree totally.
That's a little bit too close to the bone.
I mean, yeah. Normally it's 96 kbps, but you know that's Matt. You know, sometimes he goes crazy.
I mean, but yeah. I get that. There's a point too that you don't really care about what bitrate it is, what shitty bass drum. You're just like super fucking happy to be in a club again and to hear something loud with people around you. I get that point, but at the same time, I think like people might have that expectation, which I have towards myself, to be honest. If I'm going to go back out and I'm going to be playing in front of people again, I better be really fucking good because I had a lot of time to prepare for that now.
I agree, but also at the minute, if you were to sit in the studio, Chris or Matt or Sven, and you were writing a record now, you would be judging that record. Probably your weight of judgment would be leaning more on the record being more memorable than, say, a dance floor record that I think you would have produced a year ago, because it isn't just about making people move on a dance floor. You're probably now looking for other stuff. You're probably
having had this time away from dance floor, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, if you're a producer who's DJing every weekend, I think I said this at the beginning about people who kind of get a little bit too focused on touring. But like, you know, if you're producing every weekend, producing every week and DJing every weekend, there's probably times when you write a great dance floor track and go, okay, that's like stripped back. It's a really good dance floor track. I'm gonna play that out this weekend. It works out. You refine it. And it becomes a kind of almost like a scientific process. Whereas if you remove the dance floor from it, like I feel like from an artistic point of view, and don't get me wrong, I'm not an artist, so you guys are in a better position to talk about this than I am, but I kind of feel like now there might be people asking themselves the question, is this good enough for people to remember? As well as like, you know, I want people to dance, but is this, are people gonna still think of this in a year's time? Like, and I think that might be one of the positives, is I think we might get some producers, particularly producers who have been touring a lot, kind of making music that has maybe just a little bit more substance in it.
Yeah, I very much agree. I think first I disagree that you're saying you're not an artist.
Agreed.
Agreed. You agreed to that? I disagree to the notion that you're not an artist. But
Dean's an artist. No, I agree with you about Dean. Dean's a fucking phenomenal artist.
He's a phenomenal artist. I've already learned that with
producer. He's a great DJ.
With incredible insights in the business that kind of enlightened me when I go back to, like, again, I can tell everyone, like, watch the first show where Dean was on. It just totally enlightened me. But you're totally right, Dean, with the fact that when I'm sitting here making music now, and I've noticed over the past month, while not touring, while you would think of touring, while you're in the middle of touring and you're producing stuff, you really think practical, quickly, like, I don't want to use the word superficial, but you're thinking functional, you know?
Yeah,
let's go that way. Functional, right? But now I'm sitting here like, I might even fall back to like really old school techno roots, you know, like, especially because the machines I'm surrounding myself with is a 909, a 303, a 101. And it's just like, but there's so much depth to it that I suddenly experience or discover within this, that there's a whole different layer to it suddenly. That might be good, that might not be good. But then again, I read some comments here in my in the feed that they tell me is like, Chris, you're thinking way too complicated. Just when the club's open, just play a fucking bass drum and everybody's going to be happy.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, for everything you're saying, the flip side to that coin is just like, when people walk through that door, they're just going to be like, right, kick drum.
Yeah. But
motherfucker.
And Spencer, we were all at Matt's party in Berlin, the last summer day.
Yes.
The last party that ever happened. Thank you, Matt, again. That was so incredibly exciting to stand there and to play. It was such like I can't even describe that. And it you know, it was pretty simple. I think the music I played was pretty simple, but it was so super effective. And
right. I mean,
it tells you again, yes, you tend to think too complicated all the time.
Yeah, but it's passion. You know, that's I think we all think about it too much. All the DJs that I'm, you know, proud enough to call friends, like Matt or Ryan Elliott or Dean or any of these people, you know, I've seen Matt destroy a Panorama Bar, destroy a Berghain, multiple occasions. I've seen Ryan Elliott. Me and Ryan played back-to-back at Digital Festival in Brazil. I've seen Ryan play all over. Me and Matt did a Work Them Records party in Robert Johnson. I've seen these guys play all over the world, destroy it. destroy, like no one ever has destroyed before. And it's not just my point of view. I've been with friends that have been to Panorama 10 times. I've been with friends that have been there once. And they're always like, the best night. But when I speak to Matt, how was it? Well, it was okay. It wasn't the best. And I think to Ryan, I fucked up that mix. I was like, what do you mean you fucked up?
Spen,
what do you mean you fucked up that mix? Oh, I mixed it on the wrong bar.
But Spen, playing on your home turf, especially like when you move to Berlin and playing at Panorama Bar.
Yeah, for sure.
It becomes a big thing, even if you
definitely.
And it's nerve-wracking. I mean, it was nerve-wracking for me. It still can be, with seeing you and everyone around me when you have to play your first record. It's
but going back to what Chris said. Going back to what Chris says, like, I want to make it the best. You do make it the best because you give a fuck, because you're fans, because you give a fuck.
I think that
you naturally do that.
Like you said, the give a fuck thing is what makes it count, and like putting the energy in and putting the effort into saying I'm gonna, I need to fucking bring my A game to the party and play the best tracks.
Yeah, because it's pride, because you give
and also
your fans.
I used to always love with Jamie as well, playing the little the winky tracks where you play them and you look and that he's watching.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, dropping this odd Stablo record, things that were.
Yeah, like Jamie's a friend. You've DJed, I've DJed, Ryan's DJ. You look to your right in Panorama Bar and you see like me or Jamie. Even if it was like a flawless transition, like the most amazing record, me and Jamie will be like, But going back to what Chris said, the whole thing. Yeah, I've done that to Ryan, like as he's destroying Panorama. I've done it to you as well. But what it's
done it to you many times.
People have done it to me as well, but I didn't know them. But going back to what Chris said about the whole thing of like, I thought I played okay. I thought it's pretty. But you're okay in someone else's amazing.
Yeah.
But because you did the work before and you give a fuck.
Yeah. What I like about tonight's discussion is that we've concluded that numbers are really important, but they're also not important. When we're kind of back in nightclubs again, music should be functional, but also not functional. It's like it's such a circular discussion tonight.
Come on, Dean, it's not like that.
It really is. But do you know what? Like,
that's basically what I'm trying to say. That's been my whole point the whole night.
Yeah, you better play an amazing set the first time you're back, but then again, you can play a kick drum for 8 hours and everybody's going to be happy.
Yeah.
So what is the conclusion again, Dean?
The conclusion is, am I number one? That's not for me to say. That's for other people to say. Everyone else keeps saying it.
Today there are no conclusions, so I guess everyone will have to tune in and see who you guys invite on next week, and you can continue the discussion. But you know what? Actually, it's like I think a lot of the stuff that we've talked about tonight is kind of like there's no hard and fast answer.
No.
And if you're watching this because you want to hear from the music industry debate stuff, great, because it's nice to kind of have these conversations. If you're watching this because you want to take something away from it, the reality is that the big thing to take away is that there aren't any hard and fast rules. There aren't any things that you should get too bogged down and think about. Just apply your kind of thinking and your energies into the areas that you feel are best, and kind of you're going to make some mistakes on the way. You might need to get help in certain places, but there's no kind of magic bullet to success or to making yourself happy or making yourself a better artist.
I think there's one. Go on.
Go on, Spen.
No, I think there's one good thing to say, which is this. There's an idea sometimes that sometimes people put forward of, I can't get a break. I can't fucking get a break. I'm amazing and I can't get a break. It's so difficult. And it is so difficult. And I've gone through that myself. I remember trying to get a gig at a certain club and I couldn't get it. And the bare bones, the fact was I wasn't ready. I wasn't good enough, or just bad luck. I just couldn't get it. But I think one thing that's very true is if you are good as a producer or a DJ, eventually you will get there. Yeah. Eventually you will get there. If you're an amazing producer and you are the next Daft Punk, you will, or the next Mike Banks, you will get there eventually. You just fucking will. You will.
Unless you have the wrong mindset, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe if you don't have the right mindset.
I think the thing is as well.
You just fucking will. If you're the new Daft Punk and you have the potential to go platinum with your first or second album, someone will fucking sign you. It's a business.
Yeah.
Someone.
I was going to say the thing is as well, which we've all I think spoken about on this show, is that being a fan of music, being like, I mean, for me, I'm still the kid in the candy shop when it comes to music, even though maybe I know how a track's made, or I don't ever see it that way. I'm still completely absorbed by this music, and I love it for what it is. And that's what drives me. Like, I just want to keep, buying more, or, finding new music. And that's what I think. If you're a young producer or young DJ, that's what should be driving your career, and not the numbers, the social media stuff. Forget about that. It should just turn that all off and just get in the studio and make great tracks. Make great tracks, make great music. That's it.
It should be the drugs, the girls, the boys, that's what should be driving you.
Can I mute you? I can't unmute. Oh fuck! I can't mute Spencer. Shit.
Okay. I've got a little shit grenade to throw in here as well. It's also important to remember that you can't equate being successful commercially with being successful as an artist. I'm sure there are artists out there that have literally written the perfect record and then taken a step back and went, that is everything I want to achieve, and nobody's ever heard it.
Yeah.
And
that's a very good point.
Yeah. This is where we can give career advice, we can give professional advice, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best artistic advice,
No.
I think
also the dynamic, especially in this room tonight, and we all love pop music, right? We all love popular music as much as we love underground music.
I don't.
We can, huh?
I fucking hate pop music.
Yeah, but Dean, when I say pop music, I'm talking about I'm talking about 80s music. Grace Jones.
Yeah. No, I know.
No, I'm the same. I listen only to I only listen to hard techno because that's what's cool.
What's that one?
Huh? When do you want this back, by the way?
Dean, I want to have a little bit of your wisdom again.
God.
I know. I'm sure some people are watching this who are sitting at home in the last 6 months, maybe have started DJing 2 years before, 3 years before, maybe have gotten 1 gig, 2 gigs in a club, have produced some stuff, started producing, and now this pandemic came, everything got to a halt. They still believe in themselves. They may be frustrated. They're going through phases which we went through, but we still had our DJ gigs. But you're going through those phases where you feel uninspired. You can't make any music, and you even didn't have any breakthrough yet, but you're already struggling with your uninspirational phases. You don't know where to go, what to do. But you still love the music. You still love it. You love what you do. And at some point, the clubs will open again. At some point, there's going to be a chance again to break through as an artist. What would you suggest to exactly those people, what they should focus their energy on right now?
Doing the stuff and engaging with the music and kind of practicing as DJs in the way that is going to please them the most. Because the reality is we don't know what's going to happen when nightclubs open. We don't know how long that's going to take. We don't know what the landscape will look like in terms of new talent. And the reality is, again, Chris, you've asked me this question, but you know the answer because you guys are all artists and you probably hit these points before. And the simple answer is like, please yourself. Like, you know, because the only way you kind of have longevity with what you do and be able to keep the energy up is to keep inspiring yourself. So, you know, if your idea is to like, if you're someone who wants to play in nightclubs, right? And that is literally all you want to achieve, and you're DJing right now, and that's what you want to focus on. You kind of need to you kind of need to detach yourself from that a little bit and go, okay, well, like I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't have a strategy for how that's going to happen because there are established DJs with management companies and huge teams that don't even know how that's going to work. So all you got to do is look at the records that you bought, or look at the records that you can buy, and look at your turntables or your CDJs or your Ableton or whatever, and make yourself happy with it. Like, just keep inspiring yourself with the records and like learn new skills and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, at the minute, the strategy, it's kind of all bets are off. Just make yourself happy with records and DJing. That's all you've got to do. For now, anyway.
I've done nothing. I've made no new records, which I'm sure everyone will be happy about.
That's actually not true, though, is it? Because you have been writing.
Yeah, I made a couple of things, but I haven't been very inspired at all. I spent my whole time doing administration, like going through my record box, going through my iTunes, getting rid of stuff, going through my record collection. I haven't felt very inspired to make.
Yeah, but the reality is, Ben, is prior to that, you were on the hamster wheel of DJing and producing for a long time. So for you, it's been like probably like a lot of people, it's been like a bit of a rest. The pressure's off. You can do the admin. You can kind of immerse yourself in other stuff. But if you were someone who wasn't DJing out and wasn't putting out records, you'd probably be on the other end of the coin and kind of be like, okay, I'm kind of inspiring myself.
And from a point of from being a record, well, from with the label, I mean, we're now being inundated. Now everyone wants to release music. This is the other thing, because they're not playing, which is before, like loads of people obviously were touring loads. They weren't so bothered about releasing music, and now everyone's like, oh, I need to do this. I need to release a record. I need to have a platform. I need to do this. You know, again, it's kind of questionable, but you know, hopefully we'll work with the right people, or you know, friends who make good music, and that's it.
Well, like an interesting question for me is someone, I guess, actually all of you, because you all get sent music and demos by unreleased artists, whether you get a chance to spend a lot of time listening to those things. Have you seen any, and I'm not talking about established artists, because we all know, as you've just said, Matt, that established artists have been, in general, ramping up their studio time. Because they have the time, but also because a lot of them are aware that they need to make ends meet. But from kind of non-established producers, have you noticed any changes in quality or interest of demos that you've been sent?
I mean, we get sent a lot, and I mean, we've been signing some great new music from some great underground artists. I mean, I don't know. I'm checking everything all the time. So I'm, like I said, I'm always checking Beatport, Hardwax. I don't know. I'm not sure whether the quality level's going down at the moment, because I feel like maybe people just feel they need to release music due to what's going on. Of course, there are some great records coming out. But it's tricky. Obviously, everyone now is focused on just releasing music. But it's of course tricky because the clubs aren't open. So will people digest and accept this music or absorb this music in the same way? Does it also have the same sort of longevity as well? You know, there's so many different aspects to the way that a track will survive. You know, whether it's great or not. You know, some of the records we love are those slow burners. They're these tracks that they might not do anything, but in the right context, they're killer. You know, those Panorama Bar tracks, those Berghain tracks that they exist in their own little world. Sorry, Spen.
Sorry, I think I'll cut you off. But does it have the same impact when you haven't heard it on the dance floor?
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I think people are trying to. It's a you know, uncharted territory, I guess.
Well, that's quite an interesting thing, actually. The point, I think we've all kind of touched on it tonight, where we're talking about context, really. You know, I was saying earlier on that with the lack of the nightclub context, is that going to make artists kind of driven towards writing more unique, less functional records?
Yeah.
But context is, you know, can work both ways. And also, actually, the context isn't necessarily the fact that there aren't no clubs. There is also a context where artists feel like they must put music out to survive. So that's the contributing factor to having a lot of quickly produced kind of super functional records, because that's what people can punt out. I'll tell you what, if I mean, Matt, I'm actually, all of you may have read this, but a really fascinating, very short book is The Ways of Seeing by John Berger, where he talks about how context is really, really important in terms of appreciating art. And it's very short. I would really encourage you to read it, because it's brilliant in terms of just fully kind of making you aware of that context is the most important element of art, and it really kind of opens your mind to how you look at things, or how you hear things, perceive things.
I mean, I think that's you know, coming from someone who runs a label, the biggest criticism of Work Them Records is that it's only club, it's just club tools, and my reply has always been, that's exactly what I wanted it to be. I just want to make a label that's just club shit, just club records.
Yeah.
And so, you know, going back to the point, it's just like, you know, how does that work when you release a record by Matt called Just Work, which is like a drum workout with a vocal and a dub and an a cappella and a tool? You know, how does that work nowadays? You know?
I mean, the irony of that, though, is that if you put that in the hands of a skillful DJ right now, they play it in a stream where they do something really interesting there. I mean, I'm going back to the days when I was too young to go clubbing, but I used to listen to the Essential Mix.
Yeah.
And fuck.
But
I knew every transition. I knew every record. Yeah, so it's like, you know, actually maybe even stripped back records or records that are purely aimed at the club now are still connecting with people.
But of course, and Dean, this is the thing, when you think that the music that we listen to is probably only consumed in clubs, it's like a 1% of the everything around it. You know, it's whether people are getting ready on a Saturday night to go out, they're listening to dance tracks. Whether they're driving to work, they're listening to dance tracks.
Spotify, playlist, SoundCloud.
Yeah, and I always think that's why I found it a little bit difficult when people say, "Oh, I can't make a fucking dance track in this pandemic because I have no inspiration." I don't need to be in a club to make a fucking club track. I can sit at home in my studio, and I just, you know, I get lost even if I just put on a beat like an 808 beat, 99 beat. You know, you just get lost in it because you have that experience, not whether it's experience, but that passion and that, you know, that you
memory.
The memory.
Yeah, I think memory is a big point because you don't really need, like maybe when somebody's starting out, he needs that inspiration of a club experience. But we've been doing this for 20 plus years, so we don't really need to be in a club every weekend to know what a club record sounds like, right?
No, but also I think for the fan, and also for the fans, it's the same thing. And I think to limit ourselves and say, oh, you need to have a club, clubs need to be open for people to enjoy club music is also bullshit.
I mean, that's fucking nonsense. I mean, if I've implied that in any way, then I've definitely...
No, not you, but there is definitely that sentiment going around on social media where there's certain producers are like, I can't make, techno producers like, I can't make techno because the clubs aren't open. It's like, well, it doesn't work like that,
I think for some people, though, that can depend on their process, because I do know producers who, they're part of their process is they'll start writing a record, then they'll play it out, then they'll refine it, they'll play it out, they'll refine it.
For sure. And
then there are other people who, will just write their club record and that's what they know and they're really focused. But that's what I was saying earlier on, is that I find that we might end up in a situation where those producers, because they don't have that ability to refine, we might end up hearing these weird little kind of diversions, refinement that give us kind of little new explosions of creativity or interest in certain records.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if there's a time for unknown producers to break through, it's probably now, because a lot of probably well-known producers who are really good at making techno club records probably hold back a little until clubs open again. So there's a little window open. Is that maybe the case? And young producers can showcase what they can do and come up. Their names are going to be up there all the time until club opens again. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that name. He released a lot of records during the pandemic, while others might be holding back their releases.
I think again, there's two answers to this question. There's a yes and a no. Being a typical PR man with that, but I think one of the things that could be really interesting at the minute is that a lot of up and coming artists or producers will probably be probably be well aware that artists such as yourselves who are A&Rs also may well have more time to digest demos. They may well have more time to listen. So, if you're a young producer or whatever, send your demos to record labels now. Like, get your shit out there, because Matt is sat in his underpants 7 days a week.
And he's showing off his second camera all the time.
Exactly.
You're fucking really proud of your second camera, right?
I am. Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. He's spending all of his time switching between cameras in his pants.
I'm actually. This is going to be the last week for me of DJs and Beers in this studio. So
what? What? 2020, the year we have to learn to let go of things. I have to let go of the view that I have of you, Ria.
Yeah, but Dean, I know every week Ali was like, I can't wait for another week of Matt in his shorts, and like, but Dean, I wanted to ask you. So with this,
enough about your OnlyFans.
With this, the whole thing with say like albums, and I'm sure a lot of artists have been putting back albums for 2021, but surely like, this is an ongoing thing, right? This isn't going away. I mean, are people just going to be moving stuff, or
the only argument that I can find, like realistically, for anyone delaying stuff now,
especially with albums, I'm talking about, not
particularly with albums, is if you're an artist who, and I'm not just talking about DJs, I'm talking about live acts, I'm talking about rock music bands and everything. If you're an act who part of the fundamental selling of an album relies on live shows, that is the only reason why it would be worth delaying stuff.
Right.
But if you're an artist, say in electronic music, or most artists in electronic music, what is he doing?
I don't know what he's got too much breaks.
He's Dan Aykroyd vodka. That's what it's. But if you're an artist, put it this way. I think on the whole, it's a really good time to release music at the minute.
Yeah.
People, record sales haven't gone down. Even vinyl. Okay, vinyl sales on stuff that was already decreasing has gone down, but that was always going to happen. But vinyl sales in general have remained steady. Digital sales have not only remained steady, but there's been spikes.
Yeah.
Spotify had I think I said this on the last session actually, where Spotify had a brief dip, and then general streaming numbers have gone up.
I just want to interrupt you there, because I've been with records, and to apologize to the fans of records who are buying vinyl. I mean, we're now experiencing, I think it's about 4-week delay with all our releases due to the ongoing situation at the French pressing plant that we use. I think it's global with releases now.
Quite a lot of our PR clients now are reporting delays on vinyl stuff. Anything 4 weeks up to 12. So that's one of the difficult things about putting out physical product. But to jump back to the initial point, I think right now is a good time to put music out.
Oh man, I'd love to release my album already, but I just can't get it fucking done mixing right now.
Get it mixed, Chris.
Get it mixed. I know. I have a next mixing session on Tuesday again.
That's not our fault, Chris. That's not our fault.
Well said.
So maybe next Thursday, right? Next Thursday. Yeah, maybe next Thursday I'll have it done. But still, it's not. But you're right. I would love to release it now. It would be just amazing time to release an album right now. It's just not done yet. But you're totally right. Yeah. But I wanted to quickly chime into what you said early on. That was an incredible advice, by the way, for guys out there who still don't know what to do. I remember one time I was playing a big gig and I was kind of worrying, like, oh God, what music am I going to play? And somebody was like next to me saying, like, how about you just play what you wanted to hear if you were on the dance floor? And I always felt that was the best advice ever. It was just like, oh yeah, that's pretty simple. I know that, what I want to hear when I'm on the dance floor. Sometimes you have to get back to that state, right?
I mean, that's the only thing you can control, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
There are DJs, obviously as a DJ, the art is to be able to read a room and kind of have that kind of, that ability to translate what's going on the dance floor into what your next moves are. But the reality is the only thing you can be 100% certain of is pleasing yourself. And you know what Matt and Spencer were saying before about how DJs will tear themselves apart at a gig, even if they've played amazingly. It's like, well, actually, that's like hard evidence to suggest that really the best way to do it is to please yourself. And then if everyone stays on the dance floor, everyone's happy. If everyone leaves the dance floor, maybe just keep at it for a couple of years. And if it keeps staying like that, but you're happy yourself, make time to DJ in your bedroom.
I had a great joke about pleasing yourself in the pandemic now, but I'll keep it to myself.
I don't think we need it. Not just after I've heard about Matt and his shorts.
I mean, I've always every gig I've done, I've thought it's been amazing. But yeah, the thing you said about is, so you're saying that people need to stay on the dance floor.
We've had this discussion many times, Spectre. And the ideal scenario is that you're happy, people are on the dance floor.
That part's fine. I'm not getting fine.
If people are demanding money back from door staff, problems.
I mean, I am known as the human fire alarm. Yeah. the DJ Moses.
It's why we always insist on it.
The bouncer's favourite. As soon as he walks in, we'll be out early.
It's why we always insist in his contract on him playing the closing set, because it's like, well, it will save you money on getting the door staff kicking people out.
The bouncer's like, nice one.
4 till 7. Why didn't it shut at 5? Strange. Bad crowd. Bad crowd. Always bad crowd.
We've been doing this for 2.5 hours, and as we learned in today's show, there's not really one answer to one thing. But one last question that I wanted to ask to all of you, because this is what I've been hearing from a lot of people when I look at comments and stuff. Like, a lot of people really feel unmotivated right now. What do you guys individually feel like? What is the best way to become motivated for whatever you want to do again right now?
At least
Anyone?
you're not me.
Huh?
At least you're not me.
Do you know what?
It could be me. You could be me, and you're not. That's pretty cool.
I'm not sure you can force motivation or inspiration. I think sometimes you need to like focus on self-care and your own mental health, and maybe look at other stuff that you can kind of improve. And sometimes you just got to step away from it and be like, all right, I'm going to focus on something else and not force this. For example, like you mixing your album, Chris. Like, if you booked 7 studio days in a row, you're probably going to have a worse effect than maybe giving it a week off and then booking another day to mix it. So I think sometimes you just got to give yourself space and not expect too much of yourself. And particularly at the minute, like we're in a pandemic, there's a lot of stuff, and everyone likes to kind of touch on mental health and stuff, but I think from an artistic point of view, people need to sometimes just go easy on yourself. You're not a machine. You can't be forced to be motivated. You can't be forced to be creative.
Yeah, I totally agree, Dean.
Listen to Dean.
We need to relax. We need to chill out. People need to chill out, because it's not this thing isn't going to go away. It's not. Yeah.
Listen to Spencer. Don't take yourself too seriously. Relax. Go for a run.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if that's the best advice. Like, be a model. Be gorgeous. Be amazing. You can't just, not many people can do that. It's strange. It's weird. But no, I mean, all jokes aside, every time you sit down it's like doing a test. Every time you sit down to make yourself do something, it's difficult. Every good record I've made, which is not many, but they've never been when I'm sat down at my desk to like, right, today I need to do some records, blah, blah, blah. Every record, it's always sitting on the couch, fucking about, put a drum beat in, get a sample, blah, 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 blah. Well, I did like one remix edit of Drake, which was like, did okay. And I did that when I was on holiday in Italy, and I forced myself to turn off my phone for 10 days. I had a gig at the end of the 10 days, I think, but I turned off my phone. I turned off all music, everything. I was just listening to hip hop and stuff that I liked. And I liked this Drake record. I was listening to it every day. I did a quick edit 2 hours before the gig, added some drums, fucked about with it, played it at the gig, and it turned out to be like a popular edit record, blah, blah, blah.
Amazing.
Because I didn't think, right, I need something that, people that are into hip hop would like, blah, 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 blah. It just came about. Every record I've ever done that's okay, that's all right, is just that sort of vibe.
Yeah.
It's
sometimes
like Dean said, you have to give yourself the time to just like, all right, chill.
Yeah, you can't force it. You can't force it.
No, I agree, Dean. That is a really, really good point. You got to, as it weird as it sounds, kind of trust the universe in a way. That things that will be done will get done somehow. And you will, if you force it, you will basically you're going against the flow of the universe, because you're trying to force things. That might even work out on a certain level, but it will never work out on a 10 on 10 level. In a way,
you can still do work. You can still like sit at your computer and organize your.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can still function.
I mean, I've made some records that have got like massive samples in them, and the reason they've come about is because I'm organizing my iTunes. I'm going through my iTunes, which is just admin, like get rid of different records, blah blah blah. And I've heard a clip, and I'm like, oh, that's good. Made that into a record, but it's just there was no force. There was no like.
I like to sit and watch an entire season of Frasier. If I'm struggling, feeling uninspired or motivated or whatever, I zone out, watch TV, cook, do anything apart from the thing that I'm meant to do, just to try and give myself some space.
Right.
And we all need that as well. Like, fuck all the artistic stuff, fuck all the music industry stuff. Like, the last seven months for a lot of people has been like mentally very taxing. It's like,
yeah, for sure.
But Dean, what I mean, what are your thoughts on, like, I mean, I saw today, like, that, like, we were saying that I think Pickle Factory are doing these maybe parties at Oval Space, these social, but of course there's been a lot of like illegal parties going on. I mean, what's your thoughts? Like, stay at home, chill out? I mean,
I did an extremely long Twitter thread on this.
I'm not on Twitter like Chris.
No, I've disengaged from Twitter pretty much quite extensively for myself, for my own mental health.
Good.
I've said it in there, so if anyone's watching, just like look me up on Twitter and you'll see what I've written there. But the reality is, like, legal parties that are like socially distanced, go and support them, because they're the only things we have right now. And
sure, I feel the same in Berlin, like the same with the party that we did with Chris and Spencer. You really, sorry, I was just to interject, but I really feel that like, you give these people, all the club workers, the agents, the promoters, everyone the chance to actually
bar staff, the security.
They haven't done this thing for ages, and it really, they need to do this thing. They need to do
just a little bit of a sunlight in that whole thing.
Yeah. And we did that.
The important thing for everyone to remember right now is, no matter where you are or what the rules are, is that right now, I think particularly in electronic music, which is an industry that and a nightclub culture isn't always very well supported by almost all governments and like legislature around the world and stuff. I think we need to we just got to play by the rules. But if a party's legal and you can do it in a safe way, then go and support those places. The illegal stuff will be problematic for the entire industry.
Absolutely.
So that's the stuff that we should all be avoiding as professionals, as dancers, party goers. I empathize entirely with anyone who wants to cut loose, particularly if you're young and you're like disproportionately affected by lockdowns and stuff, and your university's fucked over, or you can't go to college, or you can't see your mates and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're probably not going to get that ill from coronavirus or whatever. The reality is that we need a bit of unity in the kind of scene, and we need people to understand that the illegal stuff will be the stuff that ends up with our favorite venues, our favorite promoters, our favorite DJs becoming demonized.
Yeah.
And when things do open up, it will make life much harder for us. So,
because I was reading, Dean, that I think I was looking at BBC, that it's the age group between 16 and 25 that will be the hardest hit, they think, within this pandemic. And of course, these are the kids.
What do you mean financially?
In every way, because they're the guys and girls that are looking for jobs. They're in between going to universities. It's
absolutely, like the people, even little things that we probably took for granted, like our first legal night out in a nightclub, our first experience of going to university, or our first experience in a job, our ability to look for work when we were teenagers and make ends meet, our ability to maybe move out of the family home, our ability to further our education. All of these things are kind of being done, and I think that's resulting in a lot of frustration. In the UK, I can only talk about the UK really with any knowledge.
Yeah,
but
milestone things.
There's been kind of a few illegal parties going up, and the crowds that are going to them are very much like, fuck this, we can't do this forever. But the reality is, if you care about the scene, you care about music and stuff, This isn't 1994. This isn't the criminal justice bill where we're being unfairly treated. This is a global pandemic. We have to, even if we don't agree with the rules, we have to play by the rules right now for the greater good. We have to be seen, and we have to toe the line, and that's the end of it. Because you're not being a rebel by going to an illegal party. You're just being a bit of a dick.
Yeah, I mean, do you read the post from Matthew Bushwhacker about it?
In fact, I spoke to Matthew about it today.
I thought he hit the nail on the head with his post. I mean, it was just exactly right. Like,
I said something similar, like I say on Twitter. If anyone wants to go and have a look at it, it's up there. It's like a 7 tweet. I don't like the use of the certain phrase that people are using to describe these parties. I don't like the fact that everyone's kind of demonizing these kids that want to go to parties, because I understand why.
Yeah, for sure.
We have to have a bit of empathy, but we also have to tell them that it's not the fucking brightest move right now. So yeah, like I've had too many beers and it's too late for me to be able to articulate it that I did. But yeah, go and have a look at my Twitter feed, and it's up there anyway.
As a British person living in Berlin, something that I haven't been to any of the illegal parties, but the parties that have gone on, like the Revio Südost, which is the Records party, and I went to Berghain when they had the garden open. One thing that I found really cool and really nice was, because there's this culture of, the clubs stay open a long time. There's this whole freedom sort of thing in Berlin clubs. What I found really nice was when I went to like the Berghain Garden, the rule was you have to wear a mask when you walk in, you have to wear a mask on the dance floor, you have to wear a mask in the toilets. If you're on the periphery, you don't have to wear a mask. And everyone stuck to this rule, which I thought was, kind of beautiful. And at Red Didos, there's the same kind of rules. Everyone stuck to it. There was no one on the dance floor without the mask,
Yeah, I think it was the same with Matt's party. It was great to see that everybody kind of
talk about that party.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right. It was really great to see. But the thing is, I mean, we're really already in the middle of the second wave of this thing, yeah. And things are going really bad. I was supposed to play 4 gigs in Switzerland in the month of November. They all got canceled. Of course, this is frustrating. This is really fucking frustrating. But it's so important to stress what you were saying, Dean, just early on. It's like, support the legal parties. And there is probably not going to be a legal party in the next 2 months, maybe even, yeah? So stay the fuck home. Really, it's literally only fucking 2 months. Do not do an illegal party. You can't stress that enough. It's going to put a really bad light on our scene. It's going to prolong the whole pandemic shit. And honestly, look at it. It's November, maybe December. There is an end in sight of this thing. There is going to be a vaccine coming. There is going to be something happening. We're going to be partying sooner or later together. Just if there is no legal party for you to go to, just stay the fuck home. We're all going to do streams. You can just like do the next best thing. Put up a stream of some DJ you like. Just like sit at home, smoke a joint, drink a beer, and have a party on your own. You will maybe look back in 1 year to these days and say like, oh, you know what? That was kind of a nice break to have, Like just be a little bit fucking disciplined, for God's sake.
The original spirit of Acid House and the original spirit of rave wasn't about being a rebellious culture. It was about community.
Respect.
About mutual respect.
Right.
And I know people, I've seen people who don't believe that coronavirus is real, and I fucking fundamentally disagree with them, right? But if that's what they think, then fine. But they should respect the fact that a lot of people do think it's real. And right now, and this is what I said on Twitter, is that, I'm a PR guy. That's what I've done for a very long time. And there are governments out there that will use things like illegal parties to help damage and deconstruct the nightlife industries. Right. And let's not fucking play in their hands, man. Like, let's just, like, look, it's shit, right? We're a bunch of boring old men saying, play by the rules. But honestly, it's the best thing to do right now. And
this is different now.
look after each other.
That's what we should do. Look after each other.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Chris is saying. I agree with it 100%. But I also see it from the other point of view of, if you want to use the demographic of like 16 to 25-year-olds, I know I vividly remember what it's like to be 16 to 25.
I know it's hard. I'm
agreeing
me.
with you, but I'm saying that I'm not blaming them in any way, shape, or form. I'm agreeing with exactly what you're saying. I'm agreeing exactly, and the sentiment is we have to stop fucking doing this, otherwise we'll never get back to what we want to do.
Exactly, and see it from the point of view that you maybe have a chance to experience something that you probably will never experience in your life again. Just imagine you're a really heavy weed smoker and you're forced to stop smoking weed for like half a year. Imagine how that first joint is going to hit you. This is how the first party is going to hit you. So just stay away from these illegal parties and wait till the first real party's happening, and it's going to fucking hit you like crazy. Take that as a reward.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 1,000,000%. But I understand that these people are 17, 18, and are just like.
I know.
I'm not saying it's correct. I understand.
That's why we're telling them to stay low now. Stay low.
I agree with you. I'm saying I understand their point of view. I understand that desire of just like.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Totally. This is why I think
it's correct. I'm saying I understand it.
We've got to be show empathy. We got to understand why these things are happening, why people want to happen. But it doesn't make it right. But I know why they want to do it.
No, but that's why I think some of those things that were like, someone DJing and you're in your own little area, you've got a table and the drinks come and blah blah blah. It's still, there was one I think in Maidstone, which was like a festival. You had your own area with your own table. It could be like 12 people. The drinks came to your area. I mean, I think that sort of stuff is good because it's still.
I think that was the one. That was
legal though.
That was the one that Nick was doing. No.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
No, it was legal. That's what I'm saying. Those things are good because they stop the illegal shit.
Yeah.
You can go out and do something.
Yeah.
What's if you're 18 and I offer you Nick Fanciulli DJing on a huge stage with Salado in your own area with 12 people? Yeah, fuck, I'll go to that. That'd be great.
Support the legal stuff. Try not to do the legal.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and we can end the show with this and talk about the fact that in Berlin this weekend, and maybe me and Spen will have a final drink on Sunday night before we can no longer drink for 1 month. So
right,
that's what's going to happen. And then that's it.
Sunday or Sunday.
It's Sunday. I think Sunday will be the final night. Is this going to be the same in the UK, Dean? Or
at the minute, it really depends on where you are. There's big swathes of the UK, particularly in the north and the Midlands. The south is kind of okay, but we're not looking at any major restrictive things. I think that will change. I think the reality is all of the numbers are starting to go up, but who knows? I think we just need to be prepared to continually adapt.
But I mean, this is I was talking to Dave Durrell about this, and considering we're still within the European Union, wouldn't it have been better if they had adapted a one rule for the whole of Europe?
Oh, definitely.
At the beginning,
a unilateral response. So on the first wave, we had countries happening at different times. The second wave, almost happening at the same time.
Because what I'm most worried about I think we've seen this is like civil unrest and just people being really pissed off and this is what's worrying, especially if you live in a big city like Berlin. I'm sure it's going to happen. Same as in Turin or in
It's been happening here in the UK. There's a lot of people who are fed up of poor government messaging. This is why I can empathise with a lot of people who want to do illegal parties, for example.
Yeah, for sure.
They feel like they're being kind of messed around. They feel like they're being lied to. They feel like they're being punished.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was watching Danny Dyer talking today, and
always good news source.
Yeah, well, no, but his analogy about, he was saying it's over for, he said, for years, UK government has been ruled by guys who who come from Eton. They all go to come from the same school, and they have no idea of how, what the real reality is of working within the UK. We need to give this back.
The government handling of the situation over here has been so reactive and unclear that all it's done is breed confusion and
contempt.
Yeah, it's not helpful. It's not helpful at all.
I mean, speaking for me and Matt, English people living in Berlin. I mean, we're fucking blessed, compared to a lot of places. My girlfriend lives in Prague, and that's a fucking disaster zone. So
the German government response, as an Englishman who lives in the UK, seems to be significantly more measured and considered. So yeah, enjoy living in Germany, and I'll deal with it over there.
Yeah, for sure.
Until the 31st of December, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that with Brexit looming, that's another fucking kettle of fish, isn't it?
Yeah, let's get me on another time to talk about Brexit.
Should we do that? Absolutely. Should we do that for part 3? Should we do the Brexit edition?
Yeah, we'll settle in for that. I'm gonna need a lot more beer.
We absolutely will do that. Guys, we've already went like 45 minutes longer than we would normally would do. It's been amazing to have you on the show again, Dean. Great to have you on the show, Spencer. What can we? Is there anything happening in the next week that you can tell us about? Anything besides the party on Sunday? What's the party on Sunday again?
This party.
I don't know. I mean, I have.
Talking about me and Matt going down the pub. I don't.
Oh yeah, that would be the only party in Berlin that would be happening.
Check the lineup. Me and Matt down the pub.
But I have something to plug, actually. If you are into techno, on Sunday, I help run a party for Ben Sims and Kirk DeGiorgio called Machine, and we're doing a stream through Facebook and YouTube. Just go to Ben's page or Machine's page, and we've got Ben Sims, Robert Hood, DJ Bone, Insulate, Tasha, Kirk DeGiorgio. So from 6 p.m. till midnight, we've got a stream of like techno. Some of the sets are from, 2 of the sets are from studios, but the other ones are from clubs and venues around the world. So it's going to be really cool. So come and listen to that.
So that's amazing. So that's Sunday night, 6 p.m. on Ben Sims' Facebook page.
Ben or the Machine Facebook page, yeah.
Cool.
Amazing. That's great news, because I wanted to share that I'm not going to be doing an Alone Together stream this weekend, because I'm going to spend the weekend with my daughters, totally private. That's going to be nice. And I'm going to be doing an Alone Together stream next week again. So a Saturday in a week, just for that. For everyone, all my friends in the US, I wish you an amazing last free election that you have in your lifetime. And what else is happening next week?
Just go Trump. Go Trump.
That's why I'm saying the last free election in the US this week.
Yeah, and if you wanna watch the Machine stream that Dean was talking about, we're all gonna meet at Matt's house, 6 p.m. Bring whoever you like. The address is 38.
Okay.
Mute him, Justin. Mute him. Right. Listen, really good talking to you guys again.
No, it's lovely to speak to you, Dean, and thanks again for joining us for part 2.
Anytime.
Obviously, maybe we can bring on Ben for part 3.
I will ask.
Yeah.
He's not a big fan of being discussing stuff on camera,
No, he likes a beer though, doesn't he?
He's definitely a music first guy. I'll ask.
But please give him all my best when you see him.
I will do, mate. I will do.
Please do. That's great to have you on the show. Matt, who is everybody going to be back next week? Yeah.
I'll be back next week. I mean, obviously now it's going to be partial lockdown in Berlin. So, yeah, I'm not sure what that means, but we'll be locked down. So
I'll be back. I'm sure Mo is back. David's definitely going to be back. And Ali, I'm sure, is back from Dubai. So we're all going to be back. Do we have a guest next week?
Ask Ali. Maybe.
Oh, Ali knows. Ali has a schedule. Just tune in next week again. If the world still exists next week after that weird election, then tune in.
I probably won't.
Spencer, Dean, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was such an incredible conversation over the whole thing. It's so insightful again, learning a lot. It's great. And I hope you guys out there learned a lot too. Thanks for tuning in.
See you later.